Chapter 278. The curved metal door suddenly opened, and the sexy and beautiful Tang Yin entered Charlotte's sight. However, there was no smile on Charlotte's face. "What's going on?" Charlotte said angrily. "What do you want? Do you think I'm a criminal?" Tang Yin smiled and said, "Mr. Xia, I'm really sorry. This is a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Charlotte sneered. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child?" Tang Yin bit the bullet and explained, "This is really a misunderstanding. This room is our multi-purpose reception room, and it's still being tested. Long Bing went out for an urgent mission, and she asked me to come and greet you." Such a lie could really only be used to coax a 3-year-old child, but she couldn't find a better excuse. When she said this, she had already scolded Long Bing and Sherborne from head to toe. No need. Charlotte strode towards the elevator, as if he didn't want to listen to her explanation. Tang Yin didn't know what to do. Charlotte ignored her and walked past her. Tang Yin suddenly reached out and grabbed Charlotte's arm. Charlotte stopped and looked at her. He still didn't look happy. "What do you want? Don't be angry. You're not a child anymore. If you were a child, I'd buy you candy, okay?" Tang Yin smiled, and her voice was a little coquettish. Coquettish was the most effective way for a woman to deal with an angry man. Charlotte's face finally softened a little. He didn't want to give Tang Yin face, but it was necessary. He wanted to let Sherborne, Long Bing, and Tang Yin know that he also had a temper. If this happened again, he wouldn't just be angry. He would say goodbye to 101 innings. "You're not angry anymore?" Tang Yin asked tentatively. Charlotte finally revealed a smile. "I'll let go this time. If you lock me up again, I won't come here again." These words were meant for Tang Yin, Long Bing, and Sherborne. "Look at you, don't be so stingy, okay?" Tang Yin said with a smile. "I told you, this is a misunderstanding." Charlotte asked, "What mission did Long Bing go on?" We received information that 2 terrorists have snuck back into the country. She want to clean them up." "Where's Boss Sure?" "My godfather. He went to Russia on a business trip. Recently, there has been some information exchange between our 2 countries." Tang Yin didn't even blink when she lied. "Then there's no need for me to stay here. Send me out. I can't leave without the password." Charlotte said, "Okay, I'll buy you a drink." Tang Yin pretended to be affectionate and said, "I haven't thanked you for changing such a good gun for me. It just so happens that I don't have a mission today. I'll buy you a drink." Charlotte said, "Okay, but I have to go to the Angel Orphanage first. Do you want to go with me?" "No problem. I'll go with you," Tang Yin said with a smile. In an office, Sherborne and Long Bing were looking at a monitor. On the monitor, Charlotte and Tang Yin were walking side by side to the elevator. Sherborne frowned and said, "Will he believe such a lie?" Long Bing smiled bitterly. "He is such a smart person. Do you think he will believe it? Then why didn't he expose it?" "Boss Sure, he is giving us a way out. Didn't you hear what he said at the end? If we lock him up again, he won't come here. This is a hint. If we treat him like this again, he will resign." Long Bing said, "He quit? Speaking of which, this time we really went a bit too far. He has contributed so much to this country. We didn't give him anything, but we still investigated him. If it were me, I would also be disappointed." Long Bing said, "This is our mission." "Mission." Long Bing repeated this word. Her expression was solemn. Sherborne sighed. "He is so strong. If we train him well, he will be the pillar of the country. If he is lured by the enemy and stands in the wrong camp, then there will be endless troubles. He is not that kind of person." Long Bing said. Sherborne said, "You always have to remember one thing. There is nothing in this world that is eternal, especially the human heart. So you have to keep an eye on him. Don't let him learn bad things. Now that the Goof family has fallen, he has no enemies in China. He can also focus on his military factory. After his military factory is operating normally, you take him on more missions. An uncut jade will not be useful. You have to train him well." Long Bing was stunned for a moment before she said, "Take him on a mission. He has money and people now. Will he take risks with me?" "I don't think so." Sherborne stared at Long Bing. "You're a blockhead. You have to remember, you are a woman. Is it difficult for a woman to ask a man to help her with something? Look at Yi Yan. As soon as she flirted with him, he surrendered. Don't you know how to learn? Long Bing, Sherborne crossed his muscular arms and said, "Why don't you try flirting with me? I need to go to the bathroom." Long Bing turned around and left. Flirting with Tang Yuyin was worse than asking for Long Bing's life. Half an hour later, a Chevrolet Suburban van stopped at the entrance of the Angel Orphanage. Charlotte and Tang Yuyin got out of the car, looking at the old and dilapidated orphanage and thinking of Sang Qingxin and Sang Ye. Charlotte felt a touch of melancholy in his heart. Although he didn't know what happened to Danny, he could foresee that even if he didn't die, it would be many years before Sang Qingxin and Sang Ye could reunite with him. By that time, Sang Ye would probably be a mother, right? The world was like this. A kind and simple woman like Sang Qingxin couldn't find her own happiness. A naive and adorable child like Sang Ye was destined to grow up without a father. And those despicable and greedy people lived superior lives, luxury cars, luxurious cars, and beautiful women. There was no fairness. Xiao Lei found Sang Qingxin in a simple and crude classroom. She was teaching a dozen dirty children Chinese characters, the kind with pictures of birds, fishes, suns, and so on. Sang Ye was also in that classroom. She was alone in a corner, playing with a ragged wombat. The children didn't have any decent clothes. They were all given by others. Some were too big, some were too small. It was sad to look at them. The children were very serious. Charlotte and Tang Yuyin's appearance disturbed their study. The children looked at Charlotte and Tang Yuyin and smiled. They said in unison, "Hello, Uncle and Auntie." Charlotte's heart ached. "Hello, hello. Hello, Mr. Xia." Mississippi, Sang Qingxin greeted them as well. Charlotte said politely, "I hope I didn't disturb you." "It's okay. Children, you're free to do whatever you want." Sang Qingxin left these words and walked out of the classroom. Charlotte and Tang Yuyin followed her. "Let's go to my office," Sang Qingxin said politely. Charlotte said, "No, take us to see your orphanage. We can talk while we look." "Okay, please follow me." Sang Qingxin took Charlotte and Tang Yuyin to visit the orphanage. The Angel Orphanage didn't have charity funds or government support. It only relied on donations from kind-hearted people to maintain its existence. Therefore, it was extremely simple and did not have any decent facilities. Xiao Lei's heart ached as he watched. "Mr. Xia, is my husband's injury better?" Sang Qingxin had been wanting to ask for a long time. Tang Yin opened her mouth to say something, but Xiao Lei stood in front of her and nudged the tip of her foot with his heel. Then he said, "Yeah, he's much better. We hired the best doctor in the country. He'll recover very soon. Can I go and see him?" Sang Qingxin looked relieved. "I miss him very much." Yia also misses him very much. She always wants to see her father. "Well," Charlotte said, "he is still in the ICU. You won't see him even if you go." Sang Qingxin said disappointedly, "Then when can I see him?" "You will see him soon. Don't worry." Charlotte changed the topic. "Dean Sang, I actually came to meet you as the chairman of Lima Manufacturing Company. I want to talk to you about building a new orphanage." "Ah." Sang Qingxin was stunned. Xiao Lei continued, "I want to set up an angel charity fund. I want to build an orphanage with first-class facilities for you and the children. The children will have their own library, spacious and bright dormitories and cafeteria, as well as a computer lab." "Mr. Xiaoyu," Sang Qingxin couldn't help but interrupt Charlotte, but she didn't know what to say. Charlotte smiled. "You are a good person. You should be recognized and rewarded. I will build a new orphanage for you and the children, and then I will give you 50 million to establish the Angel Fund. You will have the ownership of this fund. You can do whatever you want." This. Sang Qingxin was so excited that she couldn't speak. Charlotte said, "Keep your phone connected for the next few days. I will send someone to contact you and talk to you about building the orphanage and the Angel Fund." "Mr. Xia, am I not dreaming?" Sang Qingxin covered her face. She suspected that she was dreaming. Dean Sang, "I believe in the saying that good people will be rewarded. Our Lima Manufacturing Company will walk hand in hand with you. You will not be alone on the road of love." Charlotte extended a hand to Sang Qingxin. Sang Qingxin held Charlotte's hand with both hands. She was so excited that tears came out of her eyes. Her voice was choked. Mr. Xia, no, Chairman Xia, thank you, thank you. After leaving the angel orphanage, Charlotte quietly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Of course, a person like Danny was not worthy of his sorrow. The ones who made him sad were Sang Qingxin, Sang Yiye, and the poor orphans here. Sang Qingxin moved him, and the children here also moved him. This was why he wanted to build a new orphanage in addition to giving 50 million yuan. Giving Sang Qingxin 50 million yuan was a deal with Danny, and building a new orphanage for the children here was his sincerity. I really can't tell that you're such a person, Tang Yuyin said softly. Charlotte looked back at her and smiled. What kind of person am I? A good man. Tang Yuyin giggled. A good man. Don't make fun of me. I'm not a good man. Why not? There are many people in this world who are worth billions or even tens of billions. Compared to them, you are a poor man, but what you do is something that many billionaires are not willing to do. If you're not a good man, then what are you? Tang Yuyin stared at Charlotte. She seemed to see another side of Charlotte. Charlotte smiled embarrassedly. Don't flatter me. Didn't you say you would buy me a drink? Tang Yuyin said with a smile. I heard from Long Bing that your cooking skills are superb. How about this? Come to my house, you cook, and we will have a good meal. Then, we will compare notes. The smile on Charlotte's face suddenly froze. Chapter 279. The original plan was to return to Haizhu first, but Charlotte changed his mind and flew straight to Shu. He stayed in Shu for 2 days, inspecting the construction site of the branch company and dealing with the affairs there. Zhou Xiaohong did a good job. She had a good relationship with the local people. With Yinhao's help, there were very few things that he needed to worry about. 2 days later, Charlotte returned to Haizhu. Lu Sheng had been discharged from the hospital and returned to work. When Charlotte drove to the company, he personally opened a retractable door for Charlotte. The two chatted for a while. When they arrived at the office, Charlotte called Qin Xiang to his office. Guan Lingshan made a cup of tea for the two of them. Mr. Xia, Sister Xiang, please have some tea. Qin Xiang didn't mind Guan Lingshan calling him Sister Xiang. She was very happy and had a shy smile on her face. When Guan Lingshan placed the teacup in front of him, he reached out and wiped Guan Lingshan's hand. A small item in Guan Lingshan's suit jacket was transferred to his hand. Guan Lingshan didn't find anything, but Charlotte saw it clearly. Qin Xiang actually stole a woman's sanitary pad. Qin Xiang seemed to be shocked by the thing he stole. She reached out and threw it on Charlotte's lap. Charlotte seemed to be electrocuted. He quickly grabbed the sanitary pad and patted Guan Lingshan's shoulder. Lingshan, thank you for your hard work. Guan Lingshan adjusted the black-rimmed glasses on the bridge of her nose and said shyly, Manager Xia, this is what I should do. I'm afraid I didn't do it well enough. While she was talking, Charlotte had already secretly put the sanitary pad into her pocket. Go. I'll talk to Qin Xiang. Charlotte said, well, you guys talk. I'll go check the financial report. Guan Lingshan said. After Guan Lingshan left, Charlotte glared at Qin Xiang. Why did you steal people's sanitary pads? Qin Xiang moved closer to Charlotte. I don't know. My hands were just itchy. Then he raised a phone in his hand and said with a smile, just like now. The phone in Qin Xiang's hand was Charlotte's phone. Charlotte smiled and opened the palm of his left hand. There was a lipstick in his palm. The result of the contest between the two godly thieves was a draw. What the heck? Your skills are getting better and better. It's really like teaching the disciple to starve to death. Qin Xiang smiled bitterly. He placed the phone in Xia Lei's hand and took away the lipstick. Xia Lei said, let's talk business. You should go to the capital. To build an orphanage, the Angel Orphanage. Charlotte said. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte in surprise. Are you going to enter the charity world? Most people in this circle want to get political capital. Do you want to go the political route? Go to hell. I'm not interested in politics. Charlotte said, you go to build the orphanage. When you finish, the military factory over there will almost be completed. I need a trustworthy person to take charge of the military factory. Don't say anything. I'm going to book a ticket now. Qin Xiang turned and left. Wait, Why are you in such a hurry? Take this plan with you. Otherwise, how will you know what orphanage to build? Charlotte took out a file from his briefcase and handed it to Qin Xiang. He said, also, you can take Annie there. The medical conditions there are good. You can let her recuperate there. All the expenses will be paid by the company. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte with tender eyes. Boss, I can't repay you. How about I marry you? Charlotte's back suddenly became numb. He stared at her and said, go to hell. I'm not your cup of tea. After you go to the capital, help me keep an eye on my sister. Don't let the bad boy get close to her. Understood. Qin Xiang smiled and walked away while twisting her waist. For Qin Xiang, going from a supermarket manager to the head of a military factory was almost a leap to heaven. Of course, he was happy. For Charlotte, he also needed a completely trustworthy person like Qin Xiang to stay in the military factory and deal with the affairs there for him. As for Anina, Charlotte certainly trusted her. However, she was a typical technical talent and was not good at business. Another more important reason was that her identity was too special. She didn't dare to show her face in public. As the head of the military factory, there must be a lot of times for her to show her face in public. After Qin Xiang left, Charlotte also entered the state of work. He dealt with the company's affairs, held the company's management meetings, listened to their reports, and was very busy. In the afternoon, after work, Charlotte received a call from Shinta Tianin. You didn't tell me you were back. Shinta Tianin's tone had a hint of reproach. Charlotte said awkwardly, there are a lot of things in the company for me to deal with. I'm too busy. I was actually planning to come and see you and Uncle tomorrow. Zhuhai was a small place. It was too easy for Shinta Tianin to get information about someone. Are you still busy? I'm done. I just got off work. That's great. I want to invite you to my birthday party. Your birthday? Charlotte was surprised. And this year, I'm 1 year older. Shinta Tianin said with a smile. Age was a woman's secret. Even a woman like Shinta Tianin was no exception. Charlotte said apologetically, I'm really sorry. Where are you now? I'll be right there. Heroes Club, Shinta Tianin said. Charlotte was stunned. Why are you at that place? You'll know when you come. Shinta Tianin didn't explain. Okay, I'll be right there. Charlotte hung up the phone, but he was confused. The Heroes Club was the Gu family's place. Why would Shinta Tianin's birthday party be held there? An hour later, Charlotte drove to the Heroes Club. The parking lot was already full of luxury cars. Many well-dressed men and women walked into the club in pairs. Among them, there were many celebrities, big stars in the entertainment industry, and sports stars. There were really many distinguished guests. Charlotte got out of the car and held a bouquet of roses. He saw Shinta Tianin standing at the door to welcome the guests. He walked over. He wanted to buy a more decent gift, but time was limited. When he passed by a roadside flower shop, he bought a bouquet of roses. The roses were bright and fresh, but the packaging was a bit low class. However, he didn't think it was a big deal. A woman like Shinta Tianin didn't lack any gifts. A bouquet of flowers to express her blessings was enough. Shinta Tianin also saw Charlotte. Naturally, she also saw the bouquet of roses in Charlotte's hand. She was slightly stunned, and then she couldn't help but look happy. Happy birthday. Charlotte walked to Shinta Tianin and then handed the bouquet of roses to Shinta Tianin. Shinta Tianin took a deep breath of the rose fragrance and suddenly gave Charlotte a shallow hug. This is the best birthday gift I've ever received. Charlotte said awkwardly, I wanted to buy you a dress or something, but there's no time. I like the roses you gave me. Shinta Tianin moved closer to Charlotte's ear and whispered to him in a very low voice, Don't tell me you don't know what a rose represents? Charlotte was stunned for a moment. Roses represented love. This was common knowledge that elementary school students knew. When a man gave a woman a rose, it meant that he wanted to pursue the woman. Xiaolei looked at Shinta Tianin, who was facing him. She was still as beautiful as ever, like a fairy that did not belong to the mortal world. The feeling of seeing her for the first time suddenly welled up in his heart. At this moment, his mind was in a trance. He didn't know whether he had unintentionally bought a rose that represented love or subconsciously wanted to buy a rose to confess to Shinta Tianin. However, In the face of Shinta Tianin's playful and provocative words, he didn't know what to say. Let's go in. Shinta Tianin knew Charlotte's character very well. It was a great improvement that he could give her roses. She didn't expect to get everything she wanted at once. Charlotte also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He followed Shinta Tianin into the club and said, "By the way, why are you holding a birthday party in this place?" Shinta Tianin smiled and said, "Gu Dingshan is missing and Gu Kawu has been arrested. Don't you know about this?" It was all caused by Charlotte. How could he not know? He said, "I know, but what does this have to do with you holding a birthday party here?" Shinta Tianin lowered his voice and said, "I got the news that you defeated the Gu family, but your reaction is too slow." Ah! Charlotte was confused and said, "Why am I slow?" The Gu family's industries are in all walks of life, with tens of billions of assets, many of which are illegally possessed state-owned assets. These assets are seriously undervalued, and many people are staring at them with red eyes, ready to take action at any time. You defeated the Gu family, but you didn't do anything in this regard. If you're not slow, then what is? Shinta Tianin asked Charlotte. Charlotte realized what Shinta Tianin meant when he said he was slow. Indeed, most of the Gu family's assets were illegally obtained, and their value was seriously undervalued. Now that the Gu family had fallen, these assets were like a huge, ownerless cake. It would naturally attract many big shots who were ready to take action at any time. But he, the person who defeated the Gu family, didn't do anything. He was really slow. Aren't you going to take action? Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "How?" Shinta Tianin said, "The Gu family is finished, and many of its assets will be taken back by the state. Many of these assets, including enterprises, will be auctioned, but the assets that can be auctioned are actually some of the remaining chicken ribs that have been picked by others. The big meat can only be snatched off the stage. I'll give you a very simple example. This great ensemble is Gu Kawu's property. Its actual value is 200 million, but I have bought it for 50 million. Charlotte was shocked. In just a few days, the whereabouts of Gu Dingshan had not been found, and Gu Kawu had not been sentenced, but the Gu family's assets had changed owners. Being with Shinta Tianin, Charlotte suddenly found that his business acumen and skills were not worth mentioning. Chapter 280. Shinta Tianin seemed to be using herself as a teaching material, using this method to give Charlotte a lesson on capital plunder. In China, it was extremely difficult for honest business people to make it big. Many billionaires had sprung up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain in the past 30 years of reform and opening up. But how many of them had relied on their own ability to do business and make it big? There were very few. Capital expansion was actually eating others to make oneself stronger. This process was full of the smell of blood. The lesson Shinta Tianin gave to Charlotte was simple, but vivid enough. Gu Kawu had racked his brains to obtain her body and the Shinta family's Wanxiang group, but now Shinta Tianin was robbing his former assets with great fanfare. For Gu Kawu, this was a vicious irony. This is not a suitable place to talk about this kind of thing. Let's have a good chat later. You are the one who should eat the cake. If you don't even touch the fork, wouldn't that be too unreasonable? Shinta Tianin said. Charlotte lightly shook his head. Tianin, I won't meddle in the Gu family's affairs, and I'm not interested in the Gu family's assets. You? Shinta Tianin looked at Charlotte with a strange look. She really didn't understand why Charlotte was so indifferent in the face of such a rapid capital expansion opportunity. Charlotte just smiled and didn't explain. Who didn't want to rapidly expand their assets? Using 50 million to buy assets worth 200 million, a 300% profit, or even more. Or using 100 million to buy a mine worth 1 billion. The capital suddenly increased tenfold. How many people would be able to resist the temptation of such a thing? Even Shinta Tianin, who had a net worth of tens of billions, couldn't resist this temptation and made a move, let alone others. However, although he was tempted, Charlotte saw a level that others couldn't see or ignore. Gu Dingshan went from a street thug to a billionaire. His way of getting rich was actually the same. He robbed others and robbed the country. If it weren't for that, he would probably still be a gangster on the streets. However, what was his fate now? You have to pay back what you stole from others. If you steal from the country, the law will deal with you sooner or later. Gu Dingshan was an example of success, but he was also an example of failure. If he hadn't robbed so many things from the country, how could the North Block he built collapse so quickly? Therefore, after seeing through this, no matter how tempting it was, Charlotte would not rob the Gu family's property like Shinatianin. His career had to move forward step by step, and every penny he earned was clean. Only in this way, if someone wanted to touch him in the future, they wouldn't have anything to hold against him. Lei, there's only one chance. Don't you want to consider it? Shinatianin didn't give up persuading him. I'm actually going to recommend you a non-ferrous metal company of the North Block. You are engaged in machinery manufacturing. If you take that company, you will save a lot of raw material costs. I have a channel. I can help you take it. Charlotte smiled and said, You don't have to persuade me. I've already decided. Also, you shouldn't meddle in this kind of thing. Shinatianin's brows slightly wrinkled and said with some displeasure, Do you think these assets are not clean? Or do you think my way of doing business is not above board? You think too much. Feeling the obvious change in her tone, Charlotte hurriedly explained, I just think that Gu Dingshan is an example. You'd better not walk the road he has walked. Shinatianin smiled bitterly. It seems that I'm meddlesome. Well, I won't persuade you. Today is my birthday, and I don't want to argue with you about doing business. You wait for me. I'll go greet the guests, and then I'll come and dance with you. Charlotte nodded. Okay, you go do your thing. Shinatianin turned to several guests who had just entered the door and greeted them with a smile. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, She really is a very smart woman, but her ambition seems to be getting bigger and bigger. The Wanxiang group has developed to this scale. What else can't she be satisfied with? Why must she touch Gu Dingshan's illegal assets? Has she ever thought that as long as she touches it, she will be fine now, but in a few years, or even 20 or 30 years later, someone will catch her? How will she face it? People's hearts are higher than the sky. People who have earned 10 billion will desire to earn 100 billion, and people who have earned 100 billion will desire to earn 1 trillion. This desire will not have an end, unless life ends. Mr. Xia, you are an idiot. Fu Mingmei suddenly came over and said. Charlotte didn't mind, and said with a smile, Thank you for reminding me, otherwise I would have forgotten. I'm not joking with you. Fu Mingmei said, Sister Tianin is a very proud woman. She is very capable, and she hates it when others teach her how to do things. You actually said that you should teach her. Not only will you not get any benefits, but she will also give you a low score. A low score? Charlotte said in surprise. What score? Fu Mingmei moved closer to Charlotte's ear. The man she wants must be a man with a full score of 100. With the mistake you just made, your score will be reduced by at least 5 points. Charlotte suddenly had a feeling of discomfort in his heart. There is no perfect person in this world, but the man she wants is a perfect man with 100 points. Is such a request a love-clean freak? You, find a chance to coax her. Who knows, your score might go up again. Charlotte smiled. I don't mind how many points she gives me. I am me, and I won't change myself for anyone. Fu Mingmei glanced at Charlotte, then raised her hand and pointed at the young man who was happily talking to Shinatianin. Let me remind you again. Do you see that young man? His name is An Xiuxian, the young director of Korea's Divine Domain Group. His father is a veteran politician, and it is said that he is expected to win the next Korean presidential election. Charlotte's gaze fell on An Xiuxian. Even though they were of the same sex, his eyes lit up. An Xiuxian was tall and straight, and his appearance seemed to have been meticulously carved by a scalpel. He was extremely handsome. He also had a noble temperament, which was the temperament of a true aristocrat. It was not something that could be cultivated by earning a lot of money. When Shinatianin and An Xiuxian stood together, it gave people a feeling that they were a match made in heaven. The scene was so beautiful that it made people jealous. Fu Mingmei raised her hand and pointed at the man next to An Xiuxian. That is the diving prince, Tu Qinglong. He is also one of Sister Tianin's suitors. Many media outlets say that he has the most perfect human genes. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Tu Qinglong. Although Tu Qinglong was not as handsome as on Xiaoxian, with his mermaid-shaped body, he was clearly more mature and sexy. His handsome face had a beard, and he was very masculine. Tu Qinglong's body also had a very special aura, giving off a very sunny and healthy feeling. If he and Tianyin were together, they would also be a golden couple. Charlotte retracted his gaze and only smiled, saying nothing. "What are you smiling about?" Fu Mingmei unhappily rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "If it wasn't for the fact that Uncle Yi likes you, I wouldn't be bothered to tell you this. You don't know how many outstanding men are pursuing Sister Tianyin. In the past, with Gu Kewu around, no one dared to stand out. Now that Gu Kewu has been arrested, these people will not give up. If you don't work harder, you will be eliminated." When the Gu family was still around and Gu Kewu's power was still there, these people did not dare to fight with Gu Kewu for women. But after Gu Kewu was arrested, these people all appeared. The defeat of the Gu family was truly a joyous occasion. Charlotte just smiled. "Miss Mingmei, I think you should stop worrying about me. You should worry about yourself. Do you have a boyfriend? I will introduce you to one. Go to hell. If you continue like this, one day you will hide in your bed and cry." Fu Mingmei did not want to talk to Charlotte anymore, so she turned and left. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. He secretly asked himself in his heart, "Will I hide in my bed and cry?" After Liang Xiao left, he did hide in his bed and cry, but he swore that was the last time. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Tianyin and Xiaoxian and Tu Qinglong. The three of them were chatting and laughing, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. And Xiaoxian spoke fluent Chinese, and her conversation was humorous. Tu Qinglong was not bad either. His manners were decent, and he was very good at showing off his best side. He was also a man who knew how to make a woman happy. At this moment, a float was suddenly pushed into the door. The float was filled with roses, and in the middle of the roses was a huge cake. On that cake, Tianyi's name was written in chocolate, and there was also a Korean blessing. The hall was instantly filled with a round of applause. Tianyin said happily, "Xiaoxian, thank you. What's written on it?" And Xiaoxian revealed a charming smile. "I want to give you the best things in this world." Tianyin was slightly taken aback, and a blush appeared on her cheeks. She did not know why, but her gaze shifted in Charlotte's direction. Charlotte smiled at her, and Xiaoxian picked up the candles and lit the candles on the cake. Then she said gently, "Tianyin, make a wish." Tianyin closed her eyes and made a wish to the dancing candles. The guests sang the birthday song, and the atmosphere suddenly became cheerful. "Cut the cake." And Xiaoxian's voice was always so gentle. Tianyin took the knife that Xiaoxian handed her to cut the cake. Immersed in the flowers and blessings, she seemed to be a little intoxicated and forgot about the person she cared about the most. "Happy birthday." Charlotte's voice was very soft, and only he could hear it. At this moment, a waiter walked to Charlotte's side and said in a low voice, "Sir, someone wants to see you." Charlotte glanced at the waiter. "Who wants to see me?" The waiter said politely, "It's a young lady. She did not tell me her name. She just asked me to pass the message. Please come with me." "Where is she?" Charlotte glanced around the hall. All the guests in the hall were focused on Tianyin and Xiaoxian. No one was looking at him at all. "Sir, please come with me." The waiter did not say where the woman was. He walked to a side door. Charlotte was puzzled. He hesitated for a moment and followed the waiter to the side door. Chapter 281. After making her wish, Tianyin opened her eyes. The first direction she looked at was where Charlotte was. However, Xiaolei was nowhere to be seen among the guests who were all well-dressed. Suddenly, she felt like she had lost a lot of things in her heart. "Tianyin, happy birthday." And Xiaoxian's voice was always gentle. "Thank you." Tianyin no longer had the charming smile on her face. Tu Qinglong walked to Tianyin and gave her the gift that he had carefully prepared. It was a portrait of Tianyin that he had drawn himself. When he unfolded the scroll, there was a round of applause. The Shinta Tianin in the painting was almost identical to the Shinta Tianin in front of the painting. It was as if she was looking at a mirror. What was more praiseworthy was that the Shinta Tianin in the painting had an otherworldly aura of a fairy. I spent half a month on this. I hope you like it, Tu Qinglong said with a smile. Thank you. I didn't expect you to have such a strong artistic talent. Shinta Tianin's gaze fell on the painting, but she was thinking about someone else. Where is he? Xiaolei was walking on a secluded path covered by green bamboos. There were a few street lamps on the side of the path, but the lights were dim. Many moths fluttered around the light, adding some swaying shadows to the already dim light. This kind of environment made Xiaolei more vigilant. He awakened the ability of his left eye and cautiously observed his surroundings. At the same time, he asked, "Where is the young lady you mentioned? If you don't tell me, I won't go." He had already used his X-ray vision on the waiter. The waiter didn't have any weapons on him. Otherwise, he would have attacked first. "She's right in front, sir. Follow me." The waiter continued to walk forward. There were no gunmen hiding in the bamboo forest on both sides of the path, so Xiaolei relaxed a little. He continued to follow the servant who was leading the way. At the end of the small path was a row of tiled houses, green tiles and gray diamonds, giving off an antique vibe. The attendant pointed to a room in the middle. "Sir, it's inside. Please go in." Charlotte's eyes moved to the room. The wooden wall disappeared from his left eye's vision, and then he saw a woman inside the room. When he saw her face clearly, he was stunned. The woman in the room was actually Gu Qian. Charlotte stood a few steps away from the door, quietly waiting for the door to open. She had no weapons on her. Charlotte's gaze quickly swept across these houses. There was only Gu Qian in these houses. There was no one else. This situation made Charlotte confused. "It's actually Gu Qian who wants to see me. What does she want?" At this moment, the door opened. Gu Qian opened the door. She looked at Charlotte and said calmly, "You're here, but you don't dare to come in? I didn't bring any weapons, nor did I bring any helpers. Are you still afraid of me?" Charlotte walked over. Without weapons and helpers, he did not take Gu Qian seriously at all. He was even more curious about why Gu Qian would appear here and use such a method to meet him. Gu Qian opened the door. After Xiaolei entered, she closed the door. "What would you like to drink?" Gu Qian asked. Charlotte saw a bottle of Lafite red wine and a few cans of Coca-Cola on the coffee table. There were also 2 goblets on the coffee table. One had traces of red wine in it, and the other looked very clean and unused. "Why? Are you afraid that I've poisoned you?" Gu Qian's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Charlotte shook his head. "You're right. I'm indeed afraid that you've poisoned me. I'm not interested in drinking with you all day. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush." Gu Qian poured herself half a glass of red wine and drank it in one gulp. Then she said, "You must be very happy now, right? Why would I be happy? Stop pretending. My father has gone missing, my brother has been arrested, and the Gu family's assets have been frozen. Before they could be auctioned off, those people who used to rely on my father have revealed their ugly faces and begun to fight for our Gu family's assets. Aren't you happy in the face of all this?" Charlotte shook his head gently. "Ha! You're not happy? Oh, I know. You're probably happy because the fish that escaped the net, is still alive, right? Kill me. That way you'll be happy." Gu Qian smiled strangely. For some reason, every time Charlotte saw Gu Qian in the past, he would feel disgusted. But this time, facing her, he did not feel disgusted. Instead, he felt that she was very pitiful. "You don't dare to kill me? All right, I wasn't arrested, because our Gu family actually has a clean person, and that's me." Charlotte lightly said, "Don't disgust me. You're a clean person? How did you get Lu Ying and her patent? I don't know about other things, but just based on this, you can't be clean. Don't get lucky. You're fine now because you haven't been found out. Your Gu family has done so many bad things. Do you dare say that you didn't participate? I'm not here to bicker with you today. I've been fighting with you for so long. I'm tired, and I don't want to fight with you anymore." For some reason, Gu Qian calmed down and seemed a little tired. "Did you ask me to come here just to tell me this? Then your goal has been achieved. Either you leave, or I leave." Charlotte said. Gu Qin smiled bitterly. You know what? I hate it when you're like this. You don't care about anything, and you're as hard as a smelly rock. Charlotte turned around and left. Wait. Gu Qin called out to Charlotte. My dad is already dead. Charlotte stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Gu Qin. How did you know? Gu Qin said, my dad's secretary told me that on the day my dad died, he received a phone call, and then he transferred $5 billion in cash from the finance department. However, he disappeared that night. I know who called him, and I know that person's wrist. There's still no news of my dad, and the police haven't caught him. I believe he's dead. I don't see any sadness in you. Our Gu family never cry, because only the weak believe in tears. Gu Qin's voice was a little cold. The person who called my dad is called Qiu Jun. He's a big tiger. He's done more bad things than my dad. He killed my dad, but he's still alive, and he's living a very good life. Let's work together to deal with him. I have evidence of him in my hands. If we work together, we can definitely kill him. Charlotte was surprised that Gu Qin's purpose was this. It wasn't until my brother was caught and my father died that I knew you were from 101 innings. You hit it really well. Catching bad guys is your mission, right? You caught my brother and killed my dad. I admit it, but why didn't you catch Qiu Jun? Charlotte was speechless. He didn't have the right to decide who to capture or not to capture. In fact, Long Bing had specifically warned him that they could only kill Gu Dingshan, the tiger. The rest of the tigers would return to the forest and continue to be the king of the mountain. He was actually very upset in his heart, but the world was like this, and there was no reason to talk about it. Say something. Gu Qin roared at Charlotte. You think it's unfair? Charlotte finally spoke. Yes, it's not fair. Charlotte smiled and shook his head. When your Gu family's capital was expanding wildly, many people were forced to jump off a building by your father. Some were even killed by your father's Danny. At that time, your father was living happily. Do they think it's fair? And you used a child's life to threaten Lu Ying and forced her to go to Australia. Does she think it's fair? I don't care about other people's business. I only care about myself. Gu Qin's emotions were a little out of control. I want you to cooperate with me. We'll kill Qiu Jun together. And his accomplices. Charlotte said lightly, you found the wrong person. I don't care about this anymore. Go find someone else. This is the last conversation between us. Don't come looking for me in the future. Then let my brother go. Charlotte laughed and cried, then turned to leave. Gu Qin suddenly rushed in front of Charlotte. She pulled her shoulders back, and the red spaghetti-strap dress she was wearing slid down her shoulders. Her body was exposed under the light. Her skin was fair, delicate, and alluring. The lush area formed a very clear color contrast with her delicate skin. It was mysterious and mature. Charlotte's heart was calm. What are you doing? Get my brother out. I'll satisfy you in everything. Not just my body. I'll give you an extra 1 billion. Gu Qin's eyes were aggressive. Xiao Lei chuckled. You must have used all the connections you could have before you met me, right? If they can't, how can I? Moreover, don't forget that I'm not your friend. Gu Qin immediately froze on the spot, and his pair of big eyes also lost the aggressive light from before. Yes, when she and Gu Kuwu racked their brains to kill Charlotte, she never thought that there would be a day when she would beg Charlotte for help. Charlotte walked around Gu Qin and walked out of the room without looking back. 2 lines of tears fell from the corners of Gu Qin's eyes. It was a lie to say that the Gu family didn't believe in tears. She stood in a daze for a long time before she said, Charlotte, you're so cruel. I gave you a chance to make up with me, but you didn't want it. Well, I, Gu Qin, swear today that as long as I don't die, I'll make you regret it. Charlotte could no longer hear this sentence. Gu Qin came to beg him without any dignity. He should feel very relieved, but he didn't feel happy at all. Instead, there was a heavy depression. Charlotte walked to the hall where the birthday party was held. It was brightly lit, and people were singing and laughing. A moment later, Gu Qin left the great ensemble from the back door. She walked to the seaside where there was a speedboat. Dong Qingyue was waiting for her on the speedboat. Gu Qin saw Dong Qingyue when she approached the small harbor where the speedboat was docked. But at this moment, Dong Qingwei suddenly stood up and made a whining sound. Gu Qian suddenly realized something and turned around to escape. But before she could turn around, a big hairy hand strangled her neck from behind. Whining, Gu Qian struggled violently and then calmed down in the struggle. The bright moon in the sky was as white as snow. Chapter 282. Where did you go just now? Shinta Tianyin found Charlotte, who had returned to the hall. Charlotte said, I saw someone just now. Who? Shinta Tianyin looked very curious. Gu Qian, Charlotte said. Huh? Shinta Tianyin said in surprise. Why is Gu Qian here? I didn't invite her. Charlotte said, this distinguished gathering belongs to the Gu family. It's easy for her to come in. You should be kinder. She's like a lunatic now. Shinta Tianyin smiled disapprovingly. She's like a stray dog now. She can't do anything. Right? Why did she look for you? It's about her father's accomplices. She wanted to work with me, but I turned her down. I don't want to get involved in this anymore. Charlotte did not hide anything. Where is she now? I'll get someone to call her over. She used to be so arrogant. I like to see if she's still so arrogant now. Charlotte said, no need. She's probably already gone. Shinta Tianyin smiled. What a pity. As they were talking, An Suhyang walked over with a smile. Tianyin, who is this gentleman? Shinta Tianyin said, this is my friend, Mr. Charlotte Xia, the chairman of Lima Manufacturing Company. Lei, this is the young master of Korea's Xinyak Group, Mr. Dong An Suhyang. His father is a great politician in Korea. Just as Fu Mingmei had said, Charlotte extended his hand and said, hello, Mr. An. It's a pleasure to meet you. An Suhyang shook hands with Charlotte and said, Lima Manufacturing Company. What does it do? I've never heard of it. Charlotte said, it's just a small company. It mainly does mechanical processing. An Suhyang's smile faded a little. South Korea's Xinyak Group was a well-known large-scale corporation in South Korea. Although it could not compare to large-scale corporations like Samsung and Hyundai, it was not far off. This was especially true in the past 2 years, as it had been expanding at a rapid pace. It was likely that it would soon form a tripartite balance of power with Samsung and Hyundai. As the relationship between China and South Korea improved, Xinyak Group's tentacles had extended into the huge market of China. An Suhyang, who was the young director of Xinyak Group, was like a fish in water in China. With such status and capital, why would An Suhyang think highly of a small machining company? How could they think highly of a nobody like Charlotte? When men and women get married, they have to pay attention to their social status. When people interact with each other, they also have to pay attention to their social status. With such a huge difference in social status, how can they become friends? Tianyin, may I ask you for a dance? An Suhyang bowed in invitation, behaving like an English gentleman. Shinta Tianyin glanced at Charlotte and said somewhat apologetically, Lei, I'll accompany you later. Charlotte nodded. It's fine. Don't worry about me. An Suhyang held Shinta Tianyin's hand and walked to the dance floor. The two danced on the dance floor, and the guests around the dance floor applauded. One was handsome, the other beautiful. An Suhyang and Shinta Tianyin on the dance floor were truly a perfect couple. It made people jealous. Mr. Xia. A man's voice came from behind. Charlotte turned and saw Tu Qinglong. Tu Qinglong seemed to know him, which surprised him. So, it's our champion. Hello, Mr. Tuesday. But how do you know me? Tu Qinglong stood next to Charlotte and looked at An Suhyang and Shinta Tianyin on the dance floor. Mr. Xia, it's not strange at all that I know you. Last year, there was a period of time when the media made a big deal about your relationship with Shinta Tianyin. Shinta Tianyin even said in front of the media that you were a fiancé. I'm Shinta Tianyin's friend. Of course I'd pay attention to you. I see. That was just a misunderstanding. Charlotte said, I know. That was just a show for Gu Kawu, right? Tu Qinglong said. Charlotte glanced at him and felt that this Tu Qinglong was not a simple person. But Charlotte only smiled and said nothing. Mr. Xia, to be honest, I like Shinta Tianyin very much too. I can count as a suitor. But compared to people like you, I don't even stand a chance. But I can't stand that punk An Suhyang. He's so arrogant and full of himself. Doesn't he have a good father? Tu Qinglong's lips curved in disdain. Charlotte smiled. Mr. Tu, aren't you afraid that I'll tell on Su Hyong that you're talking to me about this? Tu Qinglong smiled. Mr. Xia, I know my place. Shinta Tianin doesn't like me. I don't have a chance to get her, but I still want her to be happy. But she won't be happy with someone like on Su Hyong. Do you understand what I mean? Do you mean that I can give Shinta Tianin happiness? Charlotte finally understood why Tu Qinglong was chatting with him. Tu Qinglong looked at Charlotte. I can see that Tianin likes you. If you're not stupid, you should pursue her and become the man who takes care of her for the rest of her life. I can't stand that punk on Su Hyong. If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask me. Charlotte couldn't help but laugh, but he still said, thank you. Tu Qinglong's thoughts and motives weren't hard to understand. He hated on Su Hyong and didn't want him to get the woman he liked. He'd rather Charlotte be with Shinta Tianin, but Charlotte didn't take his words seriously. He didn't want to fight with on Su Hyong for Shinta Tianin, and he didn't want to do that. After losing Liang Xiao, he was very cautious about love. He wasn't willing to accept easily and wasn't willing to give easily. Moreover, his career had just entered the sprint stage. He didn't want to be distracted by love. As for who Shinta Tianin was with, why should he worry about a smart woman like her? If Shinta Tianin thought that she and on Su Hyong were the best choice, then she would definitely choose on Su Hyong. It didn't matter who interfered. No one could stop her from being with on Su Hyong. If she didn't think that on Su Hyong was the man she wanted, then it wouldn't matter even if on Su Hyong did everything he could to pursue her. Gu Kuwu was a living example. Shinta Tianin was that kind of woman. No one could influence the decision she made, and no one could change the decision she made. Tu Qinglong didn't know what Charlotte was thinking. He felt very uncomfortable seeing on Su Hyong beaming on the dance floor. Mr. Xia, that punk on Su Hyong, Charlotte interrupted Tu Qinglong. Mr. Tu, let's not talk about on Su Hyong. Let's talk business. Tu Qinglong said in surprise. I'm a professional athlete, not a businessman. What business do you want to discuss with me? Charlotte said with a smile. You have such a good physique and a sunny image. Our Lima manufacturing company has an automatic skateboard that lacks a spokesperson. I sincerely invite you to be our spokesperson, Mr. Tuesday. Are you interested? Tu Qinglong smiled wryly. Mr. Xia, I really don't know what to say to you. If you could get Shinta Tianin, why would you still want to play with an automatic skateboard? Charlotte said, let me make a hypothesis. Even if I were to be with Shinta Tianin, I wouldn't use a single cent from her. I'm a man. I have to earn my own money. All right, since you said that, I'll agree. But my endorsement fee isn't cheap. 5 million. Tu Qinglong was straightforward. Charlotte thought for a moment. 3 million then. Take it as making a friend. You're really a businessman. 3 million it is. Tu Qinglong was actually very satisfied with this price. Charlotte said, I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow. Her name is Guan Lingshan. She'll be in charge of this. He then extended his hand with a smile on his face. Mr. Tu, I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with you. Tu Qinglong smiled as well. This was quite a gain. Charlotte had always wanted to find a spokesperson for Lima Manufacturing Company's current flagship product, the automatic skateboard, but he hadn't found a suitable candidate. Tu Qinglong's appearance solved this problem. It was very suitable for a sports product to be endorsed by a sports star like Tu Qinglong. Moreover, Tu Qinglong had such a good image. After the song ended, Shinta Tianin and on Su Hyong walked over. When did you two meet? Shinta Tianin was very curious to see Charlotte and Tu Qinglong chatting so enthusiastically. On Su Hyong glanced at Charlotte and Tu Qinglong. His expression was calm, and no one could tell what he was thinking. We just met. Tu Qinglong smiled. Tianin, can I ask you for a dance? Shinta Tianin didn't agree immediately. Her expression revealed a trace of awkwardness. It wasn't hard to see that she didn't want to dance with Tu Qinglong. She was willing to dance with on Su Hyong earlier because Vientiane Group and Xinyak Group had many collaborations, and on Su Hyong was the young director of Xinyak Group. He had weight that couldn't be neglected. There was no need for Tu Qinglong. He was just a sports star. A disdainful smile appeared on Su-hyung's lips. Tu Qinglong was very embarrassed. He didn't know what to do in front of Shinta Tianyin. Shinta Tianyin actually wanted to dance with Charlotte the most, but Charlotte hadn't invited her yet. Shinta Tianyin hesitated for a bit when Charlotte didn't invite her, then nodded. All right, let's go dance. Tu Qinglong was flattered and followed Shinta Tianyin onto the dance floor, holding her hand. An Su-hyung stood next to Charlotte and looked at Shinta Tianyin and Tu Qinglong on the dance floor. He said mildly, Mr. Xia, do you need a dance partner? I can introduce you to someone. Thank you, but I don't need one. Charlotte said, don't mention it. Tianyin's friend is my friend. An Su-hyung said. This sentence seemed to be a declaration of sovereignty, and it made people uncomfortable. Charlotte couldn't help but look at An Su-hyung. He suddenly felt that An Su-hyung actually had something similar to Gu Kawu, and what he was doing now was also in Gu Kawu's style. Charlotte suddenly felt a little funny and thought it was funny. He thought to himself, I once had a grudge with Gu Kawu because of Shinta Tianyin, and we had a huge fight. Now there's this An Su-hyung, who seems to think I'm a love rival too. Damn it. When did I become a love rival of the whole world? Don't look for me for this kind of thing in the future. I'm tired. Mr. Xia, I heard you dated Tianyin for a while. Is that right? An Su-hyung probed. Charlotte said, I don't remember very clearly. You should ask Tianyin. Oh, right. I still have something to do. I'll leave first. Please tell Tianyin that I'm leaving. Charlotte really did leave. An Su-hyung stared blankly at Charlotte's retreating figure, unable to recover for a long while. He was also a very smart person, but he couldn't guess why Charlotte was like this. Chapter 283. Just as he walked to the door, a woman came up to him. She was wearing a cyan Cheongsam, black half-heeled leather shoes, and a pair of long legs without stockings. From the side seam of the Cheongsam, her thighs were white and delicate like pear blossoms. Her slender waist was slender and slender, forming an attractive dolphin-like curve with her perky buttocks. The pair of huge peaks on her chest, full and firm, trembled as she walked, trembled, and the ripples were like dragonflies skimming the surface of the water. Her face was refreshing and pleasant, and there was a faint heroic spirit between her eyebrows, especially her pair of dark and bright eyes, which gave people an unforgettable impression. She held a woven handbag in her hand and wore a Republican-style lady's hat on her head, decorated with a red silk peony, which was gorgeous and noble. She was like the daughter of every warlord from the Republic of China, or a courtesan who mingled in the nightclubs of the Shanghai Bund. She had a strong aura. If it weren't for the many modern elements around her, Charlotte would really have a sense of déjà vu from the Republic of China. But he knew that it was just an illusion, because this woman's name was Tang Yuyin. Since he knew Tang Yuyin, Charlotte had never seen her dress up so seriously. She was either dressed casually or in Division 101's uniform and training attire. This was the first time she was dressed in such a feminine attire. This time he was really stunned. Tang Yuyin walked over with an elegant gait and a bright smile on her face. Every move she made was the style of a socialite. It wasn't until she walked in front of him and his nostrils were filled with the charming perfume that Charlotte came back to his senses. He couldn't help but laugh. Miss Tang, why are you here? And why are you dressed like this? Tang Yuyin pursed her lips and smiled. I'll answer both of your questions. I'm here to look for you. I need your help on a mission. As for why I'm dressed like this, I like classical things. Let me ask you a question. Do I look good in a Cheongsam? Yes. Charlotte then said. You said you need my help on a mission. What mission is it? Don't brush me off. Answer my question seriously. Do I look good in a Cheongsam? Charlotte, hurry up and tell me. I really care about your opinion. Tang Yuyin urged. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Beautiful, really beautiful. Just like Wan Lingyu and Liu Xiaoman from the Republic of China. Of course, you're much more beautiful than them. Tang Yuyin giggled like a string of silver bells. I'll take what you said as the truth. Now can you tell me what the quest is? Come in and dance with me. I saw that you didn't even have a partner just now. You were all alone. Tang Yuyin gently raised her right hand. This was a body language for Charlotte to hold her hand, and she did it very elegantly. However, Charlotte didn't move. Do you have people inside? Tang Yuyin rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Longbing goes out in groups of 3 to 5. I'm of the same rank as her. Can I bring a few people with me? Charlotte, come in with me. I'll tell you what the quest is when we dance. Tang Yuyin gently raised her right hand again. Charlotte was at his wit's end. He reached out to hold Tang Yuyin's hand and brought her back to the hall. At this moment, a dance song had just ended. Shinta Tianin and Tu Qinglong had just left the dance floor. Shinta Tianin glanced at Xiaoxian, who was at the side of the dance floor. She didn't see Charlotte. She shifted her gaze in the direction of the hall's entrance and happened to see Charlotte holding the hand of a bubble beauty as they walked to the dance floor. At that moment, she felt as though someone had tugged at her heart. Many of the guests' gazes also focused on Tang Yuyin and Charlotte. No one could deny that Tang Yuyin's beauty and figure weren't inferior to Shinta Tianin's. Shinta Tianin had an extremely noble aura, just like a queen. Meanwhile, Tang Yuyin had a classical and elegant aura. She also had an imposing air of nobility. These two women were the two most beautiful women in this party, and they were also the most eye-catching. Previously, when Xiaoxian held Shinta Tianin's hand as they walked to the dance floor, one was handsome and the other cold and elegant. It made people feel that they were a perfect couple. Now, Charlotte was holding Tang Yuyin's hand as they walked to the dance floor. One had an imposing aura, while the other had an unparalleled beauty. They were also a perfect couple. Moreover, the two of them had something in common. They both had a hint of valiance between their brows, which made them even more compatible. The music started. Charlotte hugged Tang Yuyin's waist and danced with her. Next to the dance floor, Shinta Tianin's face no longer had a smile on it. And Xiaoxian came to Shinta Tianin's side and said with a smile, Mr. Xia is really a romantic person. He just asked me to tell you that he has something to do and has to leave, but I didn't expect him to bring a woman to dance in the blink of an eye. Do you know that woman? Shinta Tianin probed, and Xiaoxian shook her head. I don't know her. Tu Qinglong asked curiously, Tianin, this is your place, and all the guests were invited by you. Don't you know who she is? I don't know. Shinta Tianin didn't even look at Tu Qinglong. She was still angry that Tu Qinglong had invited her to dance, causing her to ignore Charlotte. Tu Qinglong was snubbed and shut his mouth. Looking at Charlotte and Tang Yuyin dancing on the dance floor, Shinta Tianin furrowed his brows. He's really unfortunate. Liang Xiao left, and now this woman appeared. He didn't invite me to dance, but he danced with this woman. What does he mean? A man's mind was sometimes hard to guess. On the dance floor, with his arms around Tang Yuyin's soft waist, Charlotte felt an inexplicable burning sensation in his hands. They were already halfway through the dance, but she still hadn't fulfilled her promise. This made him a little anxious. Didn't you say you were going to tell me what the mission is? Follow me to Afghanistan. Why are we going to Afghanistan? We have a few experts trapped there and need to be rescued, Tang Yuyin said. I remember you said you were going to Afghanistan to carry out a mission to rescue hostages. Is this the mission? Haven't you managed to rescue them yet? Tang Yuyin moved closer to Charlotte's ear. Her voice was soft and gentle. That's why I need you, the super consultant, to do it. The fragrant hot air rushed into his ear, and Charlotte's nerves suddenly became sensitive. He frowned. Don't flatter me. I don't buy it. I won't go unless you tell me clearly. I didn't go last time. Another team went. 5 people died, and 2 were crippled. We don't want you to go, but this mission is very important. You must help me. Tang Yuyin whispered into Charlotte's ear. You can't refuse. Charlotte shook his head quickly. No. I don't want to go on such a dangerous mission. Find someone else. At this moment, the music stopped. Charlotte wanted to leave the dance floor, but Tang Yuyin hugged his waist and continued to dance with him. There was no music, but it didn't affect her beautiful dance. Charlotte said awkwardly, What are you trying to do? Everyone is looking at us. Tang Yuyin smiled and said, You and I are also children of the pugilistic world. Pugilistic people should live freely and not care about trifles. We will dance our own dance. Who cares what they think? Charlotte couldn't help but glance at Shinta Tianin, who was next to the dance floor. He realized that Shinta Tianyin didn't have a smile on his face. He remembered that he hadn't invited anyone to dance, but now he was dancing happily with Tang Yuyin on the dance floor. His head felt a little numb. I'll tell you a secret. Tang Yuyin ignored everyone's gazes. She moved her lips close to Charlotte's ear and whispered, "You know one of the experts?" Charlotte said in surprise. "I know her." "Who?" "Peaceful," Tang Yuyin said. Charlotte was stunned. "Why would she go to Afghanistan?" "Promise me that you'll help me, and I'll tell you," Tang Yuyin said. "If you don't tell me, I won't go." Charlotte was very stubborn. Tang Yuyin chuckled. "Well, President Shi said that you still need a permit for your military factory. If you don't help, he won't help either." "You guys are really—" Charlotte was dumbfounded. He had invested almost $1 billion in that military factory. No one told him that he needed a permit before he invested. Why did he need a permit now? Now, it seemed that this military factory had become his weakness. "Promise me that you'll help me. Otherwise, I might also die in Afghanistan." Tang Yuyin stopped dancing and looked at Charlotte with loving eyes. She was a woman who knew how to talk. First, she poked at Charlotte's weakness. Then she begged with soft words so that Charlotte couldn't get angry. Charlotte smiled bitterly. "You've already planned everything. How can I not go? When are we leaving?" Tang Yuyin said, "Tonight, there's a direct flight to Pakistan. Then, we'll enter Afghanistan from Pakistan. You don't need to prepare anything. I've already prepared everything for you. Wait for me. I'll go say goodbye to my friend." Charlotte let go of Tang Yuyin's small waist. "Shinta Tianyin. I know her. She's a good match for you," Tang Yuyin said with a smile. Charlotte rolled his eyes at her and then walked over to Shinta Tianyin. "Who is she?" Shinta Tianyin's voice had a bit of jealousy. It wasn't obvious, and only she could feel it. Charlotte moved closer to Shinta Tianyin's ear and lowered his voice. "Tang Yuyin. She's Long Bing's colleague. I have to go to Afghanistan with her. She came here specifically to find me." Upon hearing that she was Long Bing's colleague, a smile immediately appeared on Shinta Tianyin's face. "I see. Why did you go to Afghanistan with her?" "This, I can't say," Charlotte said apologetically. "I have to go. Happy birthday." "Be careful," Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte smiled. "Well, I'm leaving." At this moment, Tang Yuyin came over. She didn't greet Shinta Tianyin and just gave Charlotte a look. Then, she brushed past Xiaoxian's shoulder and walked to the door of the hall. However, at that moment, Charlotte actually saw Tang Yuyin put something the size of a rice grain into Xiaoxian's suit pocket. "What's going on?" And Xiaoxian didn't notice it at all. He kept staring at Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin. He looked indifferent, but there was a hint of displeasure in his eyes. Charlotte also glanced at Xiaoxian and then left with Tang Yuyin. Chapter 284. After getting into Tang Yuyin's car, Charlotte said, "What happened just now?" Tang Yuyin looked innocent. "What do you mean, what happened?" Charlotte said, "Stop pretending. I saw it just now. You put something on Xiaoxian's body." Tang Yuyin said in surprise, "My technique was so secretive and fast. How did you see it?" Charlotte smiled. "Your little trick is nothing in my eyes. I also know how to do it, but I'm better than you." As a master thief taught by Qin Xiang, Tang Yuyin couldn't compare to him in terms of stealing. "I really couldn't tell that you're a master of both the pen and the sword. No, you have to teach me." Tang Yuyin's thirst for knowledge was really strong. "Don't change the topic. Tell me what happened." "Okay, since you saw it, I'll tell you." Tang Yuyin said, "And Xiaoxian's identity is very special. Her father is a candidate for the next South Korean president. We need to understand some things, so it's just routine surveillance. I'm not responsible for this person's mission. I just helped her put a micro bug." "You mean her colleagues in the lobby?" "Yes, but you don't know them. What do they want to understand?" "They want to understand a lot of things: hobbies, habits, social circles, financial movements, etc. The most important thing is to understand her father and his relationship with the United States. If Xiaoxian's father, and Jinjian, is pro-Western, we have to make some preparations in advance." After a pause, Tang Yuyin said, "This is politics. You won't be interested." Charlotte shrugged. "I'm really not interested in these things. Let's go." Tang Yuyin started the car, and left the great ensemble. Charlotte took out his phone and called Guan Lingshan. In addition to letting her handle the auto skateboard endorsement with Tu Qinglong, he also told her a lot of things. He did not know when he would return from Afghanistan, so there were some things that he had to explain clearly. After calling Guan Lingshan, Charlotte called Zhou Xiaohong, Qin Xiang, and Nina respectively. He arranged everything that needed to be arranged. By the time the calls were over, the car was almost at the airport. You're really a busy person. Why don't you just stop running your company? Sell all your assets, officially join 101 innings, and live an exciting life. Tang Yin encouraged, just like 007, just like Sean from The Bourne Identity and Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible. How about it? A rain of bullets, nice cars, and beautiful women. It's as exciting as you want it to be. It's much more interesting than your current life. Charlotte smiled. Don't give me that. I'm not a kid who just walked out of school. I'm not full of passion. If you try to trick me, I'll jump into a fire pit. Tang Yin rolled her eyes at Charlotte. What's wrong with being tricked by a woman? It was not convenient to talk at the great ensemble. Now, can you tell me why Peaceful went to Afghanistan and was trapped? Charlotte looked into Tang Yin's eyes. His left eye could tell if a person was lying. If necessary, he did not mind using his X-ray vision on Tang Yin. It's very complicated, Tang Yin said. Do you remember the compass that you repaired for the Archaeology Bureau? Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Are you talking about the Ming Dynasty compass? Tang Yin nodded. Yes, it's that compass. It is now in the hands of that group of experts. Peaceful is one of them. Charlotte was even more shocked. Didn't Long Bing take the Ming Dynasty compass? After you repaired the compass, Long Bing did take it away, but she didn't take it for herself. She was also carrying out a mission. The compass was sent to the relevant department, and then it was sent to the Science Academy. Then, the Archaeology Bureau and the Science Academy sent a few elites to form a group of experts to go to Afghanistan. Why is the Ming Dynasty compass related to Afghanistan? What is going on? Charlotte's head was full of questions. Tang Yin shrugged. Don't ask me anymore. I really don't know. I'm just on a mission. I'm not an archaeologist or researcher. If you want to know the answer, you'll find out after we save her. I have one more question, Tang Yin interrupted Charlotte. You are more like my mother than my mother. Let me be quiet. Don't ask me who quiet is. Charlotte was speechless. Charlotte did not want to ask about the Ming Dynasty compass. He wanted to ask if Tang Yin had found Gu Qian. He had met Gu Qian at the ensemble, and then he had left. He guessed that Gu Qian would leave the ensemble after he left. If Gu Qian left through the front door, Tang Yin might have found her. But Tang Yin had not mentioned Gu Qian, so he did not need to ask. She probably left through the back door, Charlotte thought. Thinking about Gu Qian, Charlotte's mind was naturally filled with the image of her taking off her dress. Her breasts, her butt, and the thick forest. The arrogant Gu Qian had used her body as a capital to ask for his help. This was like the old saying, life is unpredictable. Tang Yin drove the car directly into the airport and went straight to a military transport plane. When the car stopped under the wing of the military transport plane, Charlotte said in surprise, Are we taking this to Pakistan? Tang Yin jumped out of the car. You're right. This is our 101 innings' special transport plane, Cloud 20. We call it Big Fatty. With this Cloud 20, Charlotte had a new understanding of 101 innings. He thought to himself, 101 innings is probably the CIA of the United States. The two departments are actually doing the same thing. After boarding the transport plane, Charlotte also saw 10 101 innings agents and a lot of weapons and equipment. These 10 agents were Tang Yin's subordinates. As soon as Tang Yin boarded the plane, they saluted and then looked at Charlotte with suspicion in their eyes. Tang Yin said, Let me introduce you. This is our 101 innings' senior consultant. He will be participating in this operation. Remember, his authority is second only to mine. When I'm not around, his orders are valid. Remember? Remember. The 10 agents' voices were very loud. Charlotte sighed in his heart. He felt that he had sunk deeper and deeper into the quagmire of 101 innings. A few minutes later, Cloud 20, codenamed Big Fatty, started the engine and roared to the end of the runway. Then it rose from the ground and went straight into the sky. A few hours later, Benazir Bhutto International Airport. 3 Ford Raptors drove out of the airport's special exit. They did not stop in Islamabad and headed straight for the Afghan border. The 10 agents sat in the other 2 Ford Raptors, while Tang Yuyin and Charlotte sat alone in one. The car they were in was also filled with equipment brought from China. The equipment and ammunition were enough to fight a small-scale skirmish. The variety was plentiful and the quantity was astounding. Tang Yuyin was no longer wearing the sexy and charming Chong Sam. Instead, she was wearing outdoor clothes that had been washed white. She also wore a cap on her head. She really looked like a tourist looking for excitement on a road trip. Charlotte's suit had also been changed into outdoor clothes. He did not realize that he and Tang Yuyin, who was sitting in the passenger seat, looked like a young couple. By the way, your new identity. Tang Yuyin, who was driving, suddenly thought of something. My husband, Yanghua. First, it was her husband, then it was Yanghua. When these 2 words entered Charlotte's ears, he felt as if Tang Yuyin had hit his head twice with a wooden hammer. He was dizzy. I'm her husband? Yanghua? This was not arranged by me. It was arranged by CEO Shi. If you have any complaints, you can protest to him. Tang Yuyin smiled and said, as for his name, no one in the Middle East knows who Yanghua is. I'll tell you a secret. I like to read martial arts novels. Yanghua is my idol. Charlotte was speechless. Sure enough, she was from the Tang sect. Even her idol was a hero in martial arts novels like Yanghua. He would not go to Sherboran to protest. Sherboran, that old man, was very difficult to talk to. If he protested to him about such a trivial matter, wouldn't it be obvious that he was asking for a lecture? Actually, my proposal was for you to be my brother, but CEO Shi scolded me. Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, why did he scold you? He is your godfather. Tang Yuyin said, so what if he's my godfather? He still scolded me. He asked me if I had ever seen a brother and sister driving to a foreign country for a road trip. Charlotte, this situation was the same as the situation in Germany. A young man and a woman in a foreign country. The identity of brother and sister was actually very easy to arouse suspicion. If they were lovers or husband and wife, this situation could be effectively avoided. It was not surprising that Sherboran scolded Tang Yuyin for this. Tang Yuyin looked at Charlotte and said with a serious expression, Charlotte, let me tell you this. In our line of work, nothing else is important. Protecting yourself and your colleagues and completing the task is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what kind of identity you use to cover up. If you were twice as old as me, I could call you Dad. Do you understand what I mean? Are you teaching me a lesson? Well, sort of. CEO Shi told me to try my best to teach you. Charlotte said, then teach me the Tang sect's unique knife-throwing skills. Tang Yuyin said, anyway, it's still early. Let's find a place to eat something. It's your first time in Islamabad. If you leave like this, you will regret it. This is a very beautiful city. Well, you will definitely like the respect and courtesy you receive as a Chinese in Pakistan. The friendliest country with China in the world was Pakistan. Chinese also affectionately called Pakistan Railway, which could be seen from this name alone. The respect and courtesy that Chinese people could feel in this land was really indescribable with words. Charlotte knew this, but he had never experienced it. He was tempted by Tang Yuyin's words. Well, take me around, and then let's go for breakfast. Tang Yuyin turned the steering wheel, and the car left the main road, entered a street, and slowly drove forward. The other 2 Ford Raptors continued along the main road toward the Afghan border. Chapter 285. Charlotte was burping nonstop after eating coarse bread, lamb, and buttered rice. When he wanted to pay, the boss refused to take it. Not only did he refuse to pay, but he also warmly invited Charlotte and Tang Yuyin to his house, which made Charlotte and Tang Yuyin feel embarrassed. The whole time, Tang Yuyin communicated with the boss in Urdu, and Charlotte couldn't understand a word. The boss occasionally spoke Chinese, but it was very stiff and there were many mistakes. It seems that I have to learn more foreign languages. The The mainstream languages are not enough. Tang Yuyin is very proficient in Urdu, which shows that she is very familiar with the situation in the Middle East. This is probably why she was sent instead of Long Bing for this mission, Charlotte thought. After leaving the restaurant, Tang Yuyin drove the Volt Raptor to the border of Afghanistan. What language is used in Afghanistan? Charlotte asked casually. Tang Yuyin said, Pashto and Persian. I know both. Then, she said the same sentence in Pashto and Persian, looking proud. Charlotte curled his lips. You're so smug. Do you know Russian? Tang Yuyin said, Long Bing knows it, so if it's a mission in Eastern Europe, the higher-ups will choose Long Bing instead of me. But in the Middle East, it's me. What about your brother? He knows Vietnamese and Burmese, Thai, and Japanese. Of course, he knows English. So he's mainly responsible for missions in South Asia and Japan. Speaking of this, Tang Yuyin looked at Charlotte and said with a smile, I know you know German, English, French, Japanese, Russian, and so on, so you can be competent for missions all over the world. Charlotte, the Ford Raptor drove out of Islamabad and continued in the direction of Peshawar. Peshawar was an important city on the northwestern border of Pakistan. Beyond Peshawar was the border of Afghanistan. At noon, Tang Yuyin and Charlotte arrived in Peshawar. Charlotte thought that Tang Yuyin would take him to a hotel or motel, but Tang Yuyin drove the car directly to an ordinary house. The walls surrounding the houses were very high, almost 4 meters high. There were 2 other Ford Raptors parked in a yard behind the high wall. The 10 agents had already arrived. After entering the house and seeing the busy agents and equipment, Charlotte realized that the house was actually a base of Innings 101 in Pakistan. It was also the security station or intelligence station that often appeared in spy movies. Tang Yuyin brought Charlotte to a room on the 2nd floor. You stay in this room, I'll be next to you. Rest up, we'll go into Afghanistan at night. If there's anything you need, just let me know. After leaving Peshawar, we'll face the harshest environment. Charlotte thought for a moment. Give me some books to learn Persian and Urdu. Reading is also a form of rest. No problem. I'll get someone to bring it up for you. Tang Yuyin left Charlotte's room. Charlotte looked around his room. The layout was very simple. There was a single bed, a table, a chair, and a bathroom. Charlotte's gaze moved to the single bed and suddenly remembered the scene with Long Bing in Germany. During that month, he had spent most of his time in the same bed with Long Bing. They were both playing the role of husband and wife, but Tang Yuyin didn't live with him. What am I thinking about? This is Pakistan, the friendliest country in China. This is also the intelligence station of 101 Innings. How can I sleep in the same bed as her? The identity of husband and wife is probably only used in some special circumstances, Charlotte thought to himself. An agent knocked on Charlotte's door and gave Charlotte a few books to learn Persian, Pashto, and Urdu. After thanking the agent, Xiaolei went back to his room to read a book. His reading speed was still as insane as ever. His left eye was like a scanner with an eidetic memory. He could also store all the content he read in his left eye and brain. After a while, the sound of water came from next door. Charlotte, who was in superpower mode, glanced at the wall next door. The wall quietly disappeared, and the view of the next room entered his field of vision. On the bed in the next room were Tang Yuyin's clothes. It was outdoor wear with black lace, a black bra, and white socks. The bathroom door wasn't closed, but it wasn't completely open either. There was a white figure taking a shower through the gap. Her skin was as white as snow, and it looked like it would melt with a breath. Her chest was full and firm, giving people a sense of awe. Her butt was not any less sexy than Anina's. It was round and fat, but it gave people a sense of elasticity. Her pair of beautiful legs were long and straight, full and tight. This was obviously related to her martial arts training since she was young. They were not any less beautiful than Liang Xiao's super legs. It was just a casual glance, and it could be considered a perverted voyeurism. Xiaolei should have turned away and looked away, but he was still stunned for a moment. He couldn't help but take a few more glances before looking away. Then, he suddenly had a new thought. The speed at which my left eye can see through objects is getting faster and faster, and the time I can feel the obstacles is getting shorter and shorter. Is this the result of using it for a long time? Or Is this ability constantly growing? Charlotte had never stopped thinking about the ability of his left eye, but he could not find the final answer. After thinking for a while, Charlotte gave up and continued to read. After a while, someone knocked on the door again. Before Charlotte raised his head from the book, Tang Yuyin pushed the door open. She was still wearing the outdoor wear that had been washed white. Her hair was wet, and she looked very fresh and energetic. This was probably because she had just taken a shower. Charlotte put down the book and looked at her. "What's up?" He had unintentionally peeped at her for 2 minutes, so he felt a little guilty. "It's time to eat. Aren't you hungry?" Tang Yuyin said, "The chef specially made Chinese food for us." Charlotte said, "I ate so much greasy food in the morning. I don't feel hungry now. I won't eat. You go ahead." Tang Yuyin said, "I'm actually not hungry." "Okay, accompany me to see someone." "To see who?" "A guide." Charlotte was surprised. "We still need a guide for this kind of operation?" Tang Yuyin smiled bitterly. "Brother, that is Afghanistan, not Pakistan. There are American, British, and other European countries' troops there. There are also the Santa Ida Armed Forces, the Afghan National Defense Forces, and tribal armed forces. The situation is chaotic beyond imagination. We need a guide who knows the local situation. He can help us avoid unnecessary trouble and get us to our destination safely. Where in Afghanistan is our destination?" "Bamiyan Valley." Tang Yuyin said, "Tang Xuanzong has been there. The famous Bamiyan Buddhas are there, but they were blown up by the Santa Ida Armed Forces." Charlotte's heart jumped. Peaceful and the other experts are trapped in Bamiyan Valley? Tang Yuyin said, "Yes, in a Pashtun tribe. We know the location, but it is in a war zone, so we have to use the local people's connections to get in." Peaceful and the other experts are in that area. Does it have something to do with the Bamiyan Buddhas? Charlotte's brain worked fast. Tang Yuyin rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "I really don't know what Peaceful and the other experts are doing. Don't ask me. Are you going or not? If not, I'll go by myself." Charlotte said, "Of course I'm going. Peshawar is a beautiful city. It's rare for me to come here, so of course I have to walk around." Tang Yuyin pulled out a pistol from her waist and threw it to Charlotte. "Take it. This is your weapon." Charlotte smiled. "Finally, you're willing to give me a gun." Tang Yuyin said, "Although this is Peshawar, it is close to Afghanistan. We are not absolutely safe here. It is necessary to give you a gun to protect yourself. When we are in Afghanistan, you can have any gun you want. Let's go." Charlotte put the pistol in his belt and followed Tang Yuyin out the door. The streets in the afternoon were bathed in a layer of golden sunlight. The exotic buildings were quietly bathed in the sunlight. Coupled with the brightly colored flowers, the people in the city felt like they were in a painting. After walking for a short distance, a few young women wearing black veils walked over. Charlotte smiled at them in a friendly manner, but the young women turned around and faced the wall. They did not even look at Charlotte. Charlotte felt awkward. "What's going on?" Tang Yuyin giggled and said, "In the Islamic world, they have their beliefs. It doesn't matter if you're handsome. Don't expect to have any romantic encounters here." Charlotte and the Tang family heroine had nothing to say to each other. The two of them walked slowly through the street and headed for a distribution market. Tang Yuyin told Charlotte that the guide he wanted to meet was in the distribution market. The guide was a Pashtun man named Kalam. He sold beans and wheat in the distribution market, but that was just a cover. His real identity was actually a peripheral member of the intelligence station. Every month, he would receive a sizable salary from the intelligence station. In this world, as long as you had money, you could buy the people you wanted. It had nothing to do with religion or beliefs. After entering the market, Charlotte was stunned by a roadside stall. The stall was not selling flatbread or headscarves. Instead, it was selling U.S. military equipment, from clothing to protective gear, and even U.S. military weapons and ammunition. When the stall owner saw Charlotte looking at his goods, he said in half-baked English, "Friend, take a look. It's all good stuff. One rifle for $100 and 100 bullets for free." Charlotte wanted to go over and take a look, but Tang Yuyin grabbed his hand and said, "Be careful not to be targeted." Charlotte waved at the stall owner and left with Tang Yuyin. Tang Yuyin whispered, "I don't know how many countries' intelligence agents are active in this land. Don't do anything illogical, or you'll be targeted. Charlotte nodded slightly. I know. I'm just curious. I don't really want to buy a gun. While speaking, he also constantly looked around the environment. The distribution market was indeed very complicated. Not only were there businessmen from Afghanistan, but there were also many foreign tourists, many of whom were blonde and blue-eyed Western tourists. Some tourists were taking pictures with their cameras, and some tourists were bargaining with the businessmen. This kind of environment made Charlotte a little worried. If he was discovered by the CIB intelligence agents, then he would have to face more than just the mission of rescuing the trapped experts. But as Charlotte continued to walk deeper into the distribution market with Tang Yuyan, in a corner, a woman with a black veil pointed her watch at Charlotte and Tang Yuyan. There was a high-definition camera on her watch. Chapter 286. When they were about to walk out of the distribution market, Charlotte saw a shop selling wheat, beans, and other crops. He also saw the boss, a bearded man in a turban. He was about 40 years old and had a burly figure, a typical Pashtun. When they approached the grain shop, Tang Yuyan said in a low voice, "It's here. The one standing at the door is Kalam, our guide." Charlotte looked around. There were fewer people here, but it was still very lively. Although he didn't find any suspicious people, he didn't know why he always felt a little uneasy. He always felt that there was a pair of eyes spying on him and Tang Yuyan. He had the ability to see through things, but it wasn't omnipotent. In such a complicated environment, he couldn't carefully observe everyone. In addition, he also lacked some experience. Tang Yuyan led Charlotte to the grain shop but didn't stop. Instead, they walked past it and into a jewelry shop next door. Pakistan's goldsmiths were world famous, and the jewelry shop was filled with all kinds of exquisite jewelry. Most of them were silver, and there were also gold jewelry, but very few of them. The owner of the jewelry shop was an authentic Punjabi, and when he saw Tang Yuyan and Charlotte, two Chinese people, he was so enthusiastic that it was unbearable. Tang Yuyan spoke fluently with the owner for a while in Urdu, and then picked out a few exquisite pieces of silver jewelry. The owner of the jewelry shop only charged them the cost price. After leaving the jewelry shop, Charlotte thought that Tang Yuyan was going to turn around and enter the grain shop, but she didn't even look in that direction and went straight to the other exit of the distribution market. Charlotte couldn't help but look back, and he just happened to see Kalam enter the jewelry shop. His left eye twitched slightly, and the scene in the jewelry shop suddenly entered his vision. He saw Kalam talking to the jewelry shop owner, then taking out a note as if to change it. Then, while the jewelry shop owner was giving him change, he bent down and picked up a ball of paper from the wastebasket. Seeing this, Charlotte looked away. Throughout the entire process, there was not a single word exchanged, but what they wanted to say was written on that piece of paper. Charlotte felt ashamed in his heart. He was so busy admiring the exquisite silver ornaments that he didn't even know when Tang Yuyan put the note there. However, although he saw this scene, he pretended not to know. When he left the distribution market, he said, "Didn't you want to see Kalam? Why did we leave?" Tang Yuyan said lightly, "He already knows what to do. Let's go back. He will be waiting for us outside the city tonight." Charlotte didn't ask much and followed her to the intelligence station. After walking for a while, Charlotte looked back and observed the environment behind him. The feeling of being watched followed him like a shadow, but he still couldn't find any suspicious targets. Especially the women here. They all wore black veils that covered their bodies from head to toe, and it was impossible for him to see through every single one of them. Did you find anything? Tang Yuyan also noticed Charlotte's unusual behavior. Charlotte said, "I always feel that someone is watching us, but I can't find that person. Do you have the same feeling?" Tang Yuyan said, "I don't have that feeling. If someone was following us, I would have noticed it. This area is within our surveillance range, and even if I didn't find it, our intelligence personnel would have noticed it. Don't be nervous. It's your first time on such a mission, so it's inevitable that you'll be nervous. It's my first time, too." Hearing this, Charlotte's nerves relaxed a little, and the number of times he looked back also decreased. When they passed by an intersection, a Toyota Camry rolled down its window, and a blonde girl stuck her head out of the window. She opened her mouth and spat a piece of chewing gum at Ray. Charlotte hurriedly dodged and said angrily, "What are you doing?" The blonde girl said in Russian, "What did you say? I don't understand. You should be careful. Next time, it won't be chewing gum, it'll be a bullet." Charlotte frowned and said in Russian, "Are you threatening me? Is it rude to spit gum at me? You have to apologize to me." The blonde girl grinned. "You should be careful. Next time, it won't be chewing gum, it'll be a bullet." "You." Charlotte walked over to the Toyota Camry. At that moment, the red light turned green. The blonde girl stepped on the gas and immediately left Charlotte behind. Tang Yuyin pulled Charlotte back to the sidewalk. "Forget it. Although I don't understand what you're talking about, I don't think you need to care about this with an uneducated woman. You have to remember what we're here for. It's okay to be bullied. The mission is the most important thing." Charlotte was still looking at the Toyota Camry that was moving forward. The blonde girl poked her head out of the window again and flicked her middle finger at Charlotte. She was also muttering something. "Damn it. If she comes back in time, I'll beat her up for you." Tang Yuyin was also angry. The blonde girl was really asking for a beating. Xiaolei, on the other hand, was still staring blankly at the Toyota Camry that had already driven far away. His mind was replaying the blonde girl's middle finger and her mumbling lips. He used his lips to interpret the blonde girl's Russian. The blonde girl had said, "Chewing gum, chewing gum, chewing gum." Charlotte's expression suddenly changed. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the chewing gum on the sidewalk. The piece of gum still had the blonde girl's teeth marks on it. It looked just like a piece of chewed gum. It was a piece of garbage. What confused him was that if the blonde girl cursed at the end, it would actually be normal. But why did she say chewing gum 3 times in a row? Charlotte's mind suddenly appeared the words that the blonde girl said when they quarreled. "You should be more careful. Next time, it won't be chewing gum, it will be a bullet." The blonde girl also repeated this sentence twice. This was definitely not the habit of Russian women. "Let's go. Stop looking." Tang Yuyin let go of Charlotte's hand and continued to walk forward. Charlotte walked on the sidewalk and stepped on the piece of chewing gum with his foot. Then he followed Tang Yuyin in the direction of the intelligence station. At this time, he was actually sure that there was a problem with the chewing gum. The correct way to deal with it was to tell Tang Yuyin and then check the chewing gum. However, he suddenly thought of a person and gave up the idea. The person he thought of was his father, Xia Changhe. Last time, his father, Xia Changhe, also sent a Russian woman to contact him, but she was killed by Liang Xiao. This time, it was still a Russian woman, and the hint was very obvious. The person behind this woman was most likely his father, Xia Changhe. If this situation was true and he told Tang Yuyin, wouldn't he be shooting himself in the foot? Back at the intelligence station, Tang Yuyin gathered all the agents she brought and made an action plan. Charlotte listened for a while, then excused himself to go to the bathroom. After returning to his room, he removed the chewing gum stuck to the sole of his shoe and carefully opened it. Inside the chewing gum was half a piece of paper with a paragraph written on it. "Son, you have been targeted. Leave Pakistan. Don't go to Afghanistan. It's dangerous." There was no signature, but there was no need for it, because Charlotte already knew who wrote this note. "Dad." Charlotte's heart was beating fast, and his hands couldn't help but tremble. "He's still alive. He's really still alive. This is his handwriting. I recognize it. This is his handwriting. He's nearby." Xia Changhe's voice and smile appeared in Charlotte's mind like a video rewinding. 2 lines of tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes and fell to the ground along his cheeks. He couldn't help but smile. It was joy and excitement from the bottom of his heart. Suddenly, footsteps came from outside the door. Charlotte quickly crumpled the note into a ball. He raised his hand to throw the note and the chewing gum into the trash can, but then he rejected the idea. He forced himself to put the dirty piece of chewing gum and the note into his mouth, then swallowed them. This place was not an ordinary place. Everyone here was an experienced agent who had been through hundreds of battles. A little carelessness would expose his father's secret. After swallowing the chewing gum and the note, Charlotte quickly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes with his sleeve. Just as Charlotte wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, Tang Yuyin pushed open the door and walked in. "It's time to eat." I have to call you every time. Can't you come down by yourself? Xiao Lei frowned. You're eating so early? Eating early. We'll leave after eating, Tang Yin said. So fast. His father's warning sounded in Charlotte's mind. Karam has left the city ahead of time. We have to catch up with him, Tang Yin said. Okay, let's go eat and then go to Afghanistan. Charlotte walked to the door. His father, Xia Changhe, had sent him a note telling him that he was being watched. He told him to go back and not go to Afghanistan, but the warning came a little too late. If his father, Xia Changhe, had sent him this note before he left, he might have rejected the mission. The current situation was like an arrow on a bow. How could he leave Tang Yuyin and 10 agents behind and escape? He could not do such a thing, not to mention that Peaceful, who had helped him before, was still among the people trapped. However, this was not the reason why Charlotte decided to continue the mission in Afghanistan. The biggest reason that made him make this decision was his father, Xia Changhe. His father had been missing for 6 years, and there was no news of him. Now that he knew he was nearby, how could he let go of this opportunity to find his father? I'm being watched, and it's most likely the CIA. If they're watching me, then so be it. I, Charlotte, have never been someone else's target. If they want to catch me or kill me, they'll have to ask my gun first. Charlotte was mentally prepared. After eating, Charlotte said to Tang Yuyin, Yuyin, lend me your sniper rifle. Tang Yuyin was straightforward. She handed her sniper rifle to Charlotte and said, I can lend it to you, but when we get back, you have to modify one for my brother. Charlotte looked at her, speechless. Are you doing it or not? If you don't want to, then forget it. Tang Yuyin reached for the gun again. Charlotte held the gun tightly in his hand. Deal. Chapter 287. The sun sank into the western sky, and there was still a touch of bright red in the sky. In the distance, the Himalayas stood majestically, and the white snow covering the peaks could be vaguely seen. It was a spectacular scene, solemn and sacred. 3 Ford Raptors drove out of Peshawar and headed for the border with Afghanistan. When night fell, the convoy arrived at the border checkpoint. 2 Pakistani soldiers motioned for the vehicles to pull over for inspection, and Tang Yuyin handed out a document from the window. After reading the document, the 2 Pakistani soldiers immediately raised the railing and let them pass. When the 3 Ford Raptors drove forward, all the Pakistani soldiers waved to the vehicles. This situation made Charlotte feel that even if there was a nuclear bomb in the car, they would not care. The name Pakistan Railway was not just for show. Only the Chinese who had traveled to Pakistan could understand this feeling. When they entered the border of Afghanistan, Charlotte said, Why is it that only Pakistan has set up border checkpoints but not Afghanistan? Tang Yuyin said, Who is responsible for the operation of the border checkpoints? The armed forces of Santa Ida or the hard-pressed government forces? Except for some important economic routes, the Afghan government forces will not care. The road we chose is very remote, and it is of no value to the armed forces of Santa Ida or the government forces. If it weren't for our bad luck, we wouldn't have met them. It's better to be careful, Charlotte said. He remembered the warning of his father, Xia Changhe. The convoy drove forward for more than 10 kilometers, and a shabby pickup truck appeared on the side of the road between the mountains. It had no license plate, and the vehicle logo was missing. It was impossible to tell what brand it was. Next to the front of the pickup truck stood a middle-aged man with a headscarf. Charlotte recognized him at a glance. He was Kalam, the guide of the intelligence station in Peshawar. The 3 Ford Raptors stopped on the side of the road in turn. Tang Yin got out of the car and talked with Kalam for a while, and then returned to the car. Kalam drove his pickup truck to lead the way, and the 3 Ford Raptors followed the pickup truck and continued to drive deep into the mountains. Afghanistan was known as the mountain country, and the most common thing here was the mountains. The yellow, bare mountains filled one's field of vision. This was a land abandoned by the gods, and the people living in this land were suffering from the torment of war. How long do we need to reach the tribe you mentioned? Charlotte broke the silence in the car. He found that as soon as they entered Afghanistan, Tang Yuyin was a little nervous and didn't like to talk. Tang Yuyin said, If there's no trouble on the way, we'll probably be close to the destination by this time tomorrow. Don't be nervous. This route is very safe. Charlotte smiled. I'm not nervous. I see that you're a little nervous, so I'm talking to you. Tang Yuyan rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Am I nervous? Why don't I feel anything? Stop joking. I'm not nervous at all. Charlotte chuckled. He realized that Tang Yuyan was actually a woman who cared a lot about her face. But at this moment, a ray of fire suddenly flew from the left side of the hill. In the night sky, this ray of fire was very obvious. Charlotte and Tang Yuyan looked over at almost the same time. Without waiting for Charlotte to react, Tang Yuyan shouted, "Rocket! Dodge!" Tang Yuyan was indeed much more experienced than Charlotte. However, her warning was not as fast as the rocket. As soon as her voice fell, the rocket hit the pickup truck driven by Kalam at the front. Boom! With a loud noise, the pickup truck, which weighed 2 tons, was lifted into the sky. It was covered in flames and smoke as it smashed toward the vehicle Tang Yuyan and Charlotte were in. Tang Yuyan turned the steering wheel and avoided the wreckage of the car falling from the sky. Boom! The pickup truck driven by Karam crashed on a mountain road and immediately exploded. Flames soared into the sky, and the debris of the vehicle flew in all directions like fragments of a cannonball. Although the Ford Raptor behind stopped in time, the windshield was directly smashed by the debris, and the hood of the car was also blown off. Another ray of fire flashed from the hillside. This time, without waiting for it to fly closer, Charlotte and Tang Yin opened the door and jumped out at the same time. Boom! The second rocket hit a rock in front of them. Half of the huge rock was blown off, and the remaining part rolled to the middle of the mountain road. The pilotless Axe Raptor slammed into the rock and stopped. Fight! Tang Yuyan roared and quickly ran down a cliff while firing blindly at the hillside. The agents in the 2 cars behind also quickly got out of the car and found cover nearby. Some fired blindly, while others used night vision equipment to search for targets and prepared to kill them with sniper rifles. Charlotte also hid behind a rock. His head was buzzing, and his hands were trembling slightly. Gunshots and explosions kept coming from around him, as well as bullets whizzing over his head. But his mind was blank, and he couldn't think. This was a battlefield. Every bullet was merciless, and every second was unbearable. Although he had the experience of fighting with 3 killers with a sniper rifle, it wasn't a battlefield at all. It wasn't even an evenly matched battle because the opponents couldn't even get close to his 3,200-meter sniper range. Once they got close, he could finish them off with 1 bullet. But this time was completely different. This was a real battlefield, and judging from the gunshots, there were definitely no less than 20 people. 20 guns and rockets. This was definitely a hail of bullets. Tang Yuyan noticed Charlotte's abnormal situation. She bit her lower lip, raised the rifle in her hand, and rushed to Charlotte's side. Charlotte looked at her blankly and didn't react at all. What's wrong with you? Tang Yuyan grabbed Charlotte's shoulder and shook him hard. Pull yourself together. Boom! Another rocket exploded, and an agent's legs were blown off. The rock fragments pierced into his body, and blood sprayed out like a fountain. Such an injury couldn't be saved even if he went to the operating table immediately, let alone in the wilderness. But this explosion woke Charlotte up. He shook his head hard, trying to dispel the fear in his heart and the discomfort of being on the battlefield for the first time. Can you still shoot? If you can't, let me do it. Tang Yuyan shouted from Charlotte. I can't. Charlotte adjusted his position behind the rock and then poked the sniper rifle out from the surface of the rock. His body stuck close to the inside of the rock, and he slowly poked his head up, but he didn't completely poke out of the rock. Instead, he awakened the ability of his left eye and looked through the top of the rock to search for the rocket launcher operator. The rocket launcher operator was the biggest threat, and he had to be eliminated. The vision of his left eye quietly penetrated the top part of the rock, and the situation on the opposite side of the mountain was clearly visible. No less than 30 armed personnel were quickly advancing toward the mountain road. They wore camouflage combat suits, protective gear, and tactical helmets. Their equipment was excellent to the extreme. These armed personnel provided cover fire at the front, and the back used the terrain to quickly advance. Then, they switched positions to provide cover fire and advance. The level of combat proficiency was not something the armed personnel of Santa Ida could compare to, nor was it something the National Defense Force of Afghanistan could compare to. Charlotte searched and quickly found the armed personnel carrying the rocket launcher. He was using the cover fire of his teammates to quietly lean forward and aim the infrared beam from the scope at a rock. Behind a rock were two China agents. They were suppressed by the enemy's powerful firepower and couldn't raise their heads. In Charlotte's left eye, he could even see the sneer of the soldier carrying the rocket launcher. "You bastard! Where did your courage go? Give me the sniper rifle." Tang Yuyin was furious. Zarek blocked her view with the back of his hand and pulled the trigger. The modified sniper rifle made a muffled sound, and a bullet whizzed out, hitting the forehead of the armed personnel carrying the rocket launcher. Half of the armed personnel's head was blown off, and the rocket launch from the rocket launcher also flew into the sky because of his death. When Tang Yuyin adjusted her vision, Charlotte had already completed the kill, and she didn't see the process at all. This was also the reason why Charlotte used his back to block her vision. He didn't want Tang Yuyin to see that his head was still hidden under the rock when he killed the rocket launcher operator. "I've already killed the rocket launcher operator," Charlotte said. At this moment, he was already in the zone and had gradually adapted to the atmosphere of the battlefield. How did you do it?" Tang Yuyin looked at Charlotte in surprise. She couldn't believe it because it was too fast. If it were her, she would still be looking for the rocket launcher operator and then looking for a suitable opportunity to snipe. However, Charlotte only used less than 3 seconds to kill the target. At this moment, a bullet suddenly hit the rock that the two of them were hiding under. The huge impact caused the rock to tremble, and the rock fragments that were blown away flew past the two of them. It was the enemy's sniper. "Cover me. The terrain here is too low. I need to find a high sniping point," Charlotte said. Tang Yuyin nodded and then ordered into the communicator. "Everyone, suppress them with firepower." After that, she stuck the rifle in her hand out from the side of the rock and fired randomly in the direction of the hillside. Da-da-da-da-da, bang, 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 bang. All the guns were firing, and the bullets drew a shining trajectory in the night sky. Charlotte took advantage of the moment when the enemy's formation was disrupted and suddenly rushed out from behind the rock, then ran to the hillside on the other side. He didn't run in a straight line, but changed direction every few steps to not give the enemy's sniper a chance to lock onto him. In the blink of an eye, the hillside was in front of him, and a 3-meter-high rock blocked the way. The sprinting Charlotte didn't show any signs of stopping. His feet stepped on the ground, and his body suddenly rose from the ground, and with a whoosh, he jumped to the top of the rock. Just as he jumped on the rock, a sniper rifle bullet hit the rock under his feet, splashing sparks and rock fragments. The enemy's sniper obviously judged that he would climb the rock and fired, but he didn't expect him to directly jump over the rock. Chapter 288. Crack. A shrub as thick as a bowl was torn apart by the sniper rifle's bullet. But a second before the bullet hit the shrub, Charlotte had already bypassed the shrub and ran to higher ground. "Is that guy still human? He's running as fast on the hillside as I am on the flat ground. How is that possible?" The sniper on the opposite hillside could not help but wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. He nervously observed Charlotte, who was jumping here and there on the hillside. He could see Charlotte, but he could not lock onto him. As the distance increased, the flight time of the bullet alone would take about 1.5 to 2 seconds, and during this time, Charlotte had run at least a dozen meters away. At this moment, Charlotte suddenly disappeared from his field of vision. No matter how he searched, he could not see him. That guy didn't escape, right? The sniper who was lurking in the sniper's position guessed, but he did not dare to give up on searching for traces of Charlotte, nor did he dare to rashly snipe other targets. He was afraid that once he changed targets, he would become Charlotte's target. After a minute of stalemate, the sniper gave up. He slowly crawled out of the sniper's position and crawled to another place. The battle at the bottom of the hillside became even more intense. Both sides had fired countless bullets at each other, and no one knew how many magazines had been emptied. But whether it was the agents of China or the armed forces lying in ambush here, it was difficult for them to repel each other, and it was difficult for them to increase their results. For a moment, both sides were in a state of anxiety. This was not surprising. Even the most powerful U.S. military in the world might need 250,000 bullets to kill a Santa Ida armed force. Moreover, this was real data. On the hillside, Charlotte crawled on all fours to a pile of rocks. His left eye was locked on the opposite hillside. Although the sniper was wearing a camouflage and almost merged with the mountain, in his left eye, the sniper was like a person walking in the dark with a flashlight. It cannot be more obvious. Charlotte extended the sniper rifle's barrel through the gap between two rocks, aimed at the sniper's head, and pulled the trigger. Bang! With a muffled sound, a bullet shot out and hit the sniper's back 1.5 seconds later. Although the sniper was wearing a bulletproof vest, the current bulletproof vest could not defend against the bullets of a sniper rifle. Moreover, Charlotte's sniper rifle had been specially modified. Both its firing speed and power were very strong. A large piece of flesh was ripped off the sniper's back, and his lungs were torn apart by the impact. There was no way he could survive. After confirming that the sniper had been killed, Charlotte breathed a sigh of relief. He said to the communicator, "The enemy's sniper has been killed. Don't rush out. Keep shooting. I'll take care of them." "Well done." Tang Yuyan's voice was filled with excitement. Bang! Another gunshot rang out, and another armed man's chest was blown to pieces. Bang! Another armed man fell to the ground. Bang! A gunman who had just poked his head out from behind a rock was shot in the head after killing the enemy's RPG launcher operator and the enemy's sniper. Charlotte could look for targets and snipe them without any worries. Moreover, he was outside the enemy's firing range, so he did not have to worry about bullets threatening him. After a few minutes, the enemy could not take it anymore. They gave up on attacking and fled to the other side of the hill. Charlotte did not give up on sniping. He took advantage of the enemy's escape and killed a few more. Out of 30 armed men, less than 15 could leave the battlefield alive. This time, Charlotte did not feel disgusted after killing people. Long Bing seemed to be right. Killing people was indeed disgusting, but it would be fine once he got used to it. Including the 2 professional assassins he had killed earlier and the people he had killed tonight, the number of people Charlotte had killed was already in the double digits. No feeling of disgust did not mean that he felt good. After the battle was over, after his tense nerves and desire to kill were relaxed, Charlotte's mind was blank again. It was so empty that it was terrible. "It's overlay. Come down quickly. We have to get out of here." Tang Yuyan's voice came from the communicator again. Charlotte came back to his senses. He responded and then walked down the hill with a sniper rifle. During the battle, he held his breath and rushed up. His whole body was tense, and he felt like he was walking through the gates of hell. Now that he was completely relaxed, he found that his legs were trembling. If I want to become someone like Long Bing and Tang Yuyan, I'm afraid I still have a long way to go, right? Charlotte's mouth showed a bitter smile. The agents on 101 innings at the bottom of the hill were already cleaning up the battlefield. 3 people were killed on 101 innings, but that was not the worst. The worst was that the guide, Kalam, was killed. 17 people were killed on the side of the unknown armed forces, and 12 of them were killed by Charlotte. Just from this battle, the agents on 101 innings had a whole new level of respect for this seemingly gentle consultant. Before this, these agents thought that Charlotte was a purely technical person, such as a computer hacker or a language expert, but they did not expect him to be such a strong sniper. The agents on 101 innings searched the enemy's bodies and did not find any identity information, but some of the items on the bodies provided some clues. A lot of miscellaneous items were piled on the ground, including chewing gum, chocolate, Playboy magazines, and a few photos. One of these photos had the background of New York Central Park, and the other was the gate of Harvard University. These two photos were of a man and a woman, and they looked very intimate. Tang Yuyan pointed to the things on the ground. Chewing gum, chocolate, and Playboy magazines. Who are these people? What do you think? Charlotte said, haven't these photos already given the necessary information? Where they came from, you should know better than me. These people were all Americans, and Tang Yuyan knew it very well, but she did not say it out loud. In fact, she already had a preliminary judgment in her heart, and that was that these people were American Special Forces, not CIB agents. Because it was impossible for the CIB to gather so many agents to carry out a mission, these special forces should only be commanded by 1 or 2 CIB agents. But they were not among the bodies. After a moment of silence, Tang Yuyan said, Lei, do you think these people are coming for you? Charlotte's expression changed slightly, and then he shook his head. Do you mean because of the mission that Long Bing and I carried out in Germany last time? It's possible, but I'm more inclined to believe Serenity and other experts. Didn't you say that the last rescue mission also failed, and there were heavy casualties? It might not be done by this group of people. Although that was what he said, Charlotte thought of the woman who spat gum at him, and what his father, Xia Changhe, had written on the note. In fact, he was more inclined to believe that these people were coming for him. Tang Yuyan said, maybe you're right. These people will definitely come back. Next time, we must catch one alive. I will interrogate him myself. Charlotte said, our guide is dead. What should we do now? We have to continue without a guide. Tang Yuyan then ordered, bury our people, sort out the weapons and equipment, and check the condition of the vehicles. We will leave in half an hour. The agents of Innings 101 began to move. Some dug pits to bury the bodies of their comrades. Some counted the weapons and equipment, and some checked and repaired the damaged vehicles. As for the bodies of the armed men, they were thrown down a cliff. They would become food for the crows and bacteria, and eventually turn into white bones. This was also a helpless move, especially for the 3 agents of Innings who had died. Their bodies should have been transported back to their country, but the mission had to continue, and no one would send their bodies back. They would sleep in this desolate land, and their families would not even have the chance to pay their respects. This was war, the most evil act of mankind. Half an hour later, 3-4 raptors were on the road, driving deep into the mountains. This time, it was Charlotte who was driving. Tang Yuyan was in the front passenger seat, using a satellite phone and a code word to pass information to the intelligence station. What happened here would be sent back to the headquarters of Innings 101 through the intelligence station. Tang Yuyan's code word was very special. It was an ancient poem, and it was written in classical Chinese. Even if someone intercepted her communication with the intelligence station, it would be useless. China's classical Chinese was the world's most difficult character and language. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven to decipher it. After Tang Yuyan ended the satellite call, Charlotte said, what did the higher-ups say? Continue to carry out the mission. The higher-ups will send another person to pick us up. He will lead us through the area controlled by the tribal forces, Tang Yuyan said. Where is he? We will pass by the Whitestone tribe's territory tomorrow morning. I guess the new guide will meet us before then, Tang Yuyan said. We'll go to the Bamiyan Valley. Which tribe controls that place? Xiaolei want to know more about it. Tang Yuyan smiled bitterly. There are hundreds of tribes in Afghanistan. I only know about a dozen, and they are all relatively famous and large tribes. Some small tribes are like the small towns and villages from our side. They're deep in the mountains, and who knows where they are. This is also why we need a guide. Without a guide to lead and negotiate, it is easy for us to be seen as enemies and fight with the tribal forces. Is the Whitestone tribe you mentioned a big tribe or a small tribe? It's neither big nor small. If you want to ask how many armed men they have, I can tell you that they have more than 1,000 armed men. Tang Yuyan said, so when we pass through the area controlled by the Whitestone tribe, we must be careful. We can't have any conflict with them, or we will be in big trouble. Charlotte was silent for a moment before he said, actually, we should use a plane to carry out this mission. The ground is too complicated. Tang Yuyan said, brother, this is Afghanistan, a mountain country. What kind of plane can send us in except for helicopters? The helicopter is too slow and will become a live target for shoulder-launched anti-aircraft missiles. More importantly, Afghanistan's airspace is already controlled by the U.S. and its allies. We can't avoid the U.S. military's radar. Once we choose a plane to carry out this mission, before our plane can even reach the destination, their fighter jets will come to greet us. I see. Forget it. Let's talk about something else. This is such a dangerous mission. Maybe we'll die here. Can you tell me about the Tang sect's unique hidden weapon skills? Oh, I know you won't give up. You want to learn our Tang sect's unique skills. How many times do I have to tell you before you give up? Our Tang sect's unique hidden weapon skills are not taught to outsiders, unless you are a member of the Tang family. I also said that. Does your dad still accept the godson? Screw you. Stingy. Just like that, they left the mountains behind them as they chatted. Chapter 289. The light of dawn dispelled the darkness, lighting up the sky and the earth. There was a valley in front of them, and a village could be seen in the distance, simple and unadorned. An old man was driving a herd of goats towards them. Charlotte stopped the car and waited for the goats to pass. On the passenger seat, Tang Yuyin already had a pistol in her hand, ready to deal with any sudden situations. This is the outpost of the Whitestone tribe. It's too quiet here. It's not normal. Tang Yuyin said nervously. Charlotte looked into the distance, scanning the hillsides on both sides. Soon, he found the armed men hiding on the left side of the hillside. Those armed men were all wrapped in bandanas, and most of their weapons were old AK-47s. There were also some RPG launchers. There were about 20 of them. Although he had confirmed the situation, Charlotte still pretended to pick up the binoculars to take a look, and then handed the binoculars to Tang Yuyin. There are people on the hillside. See if they're the armed men of the Whitestone tribe. Tang Yuyin looked through the binoculars and immediately frowned. They're the armed men of the Whitestone tribe. There aren't many of them. They should be an outpost. Damn it, why isn't the guide here yet? Charlotte glanced at the hillside and found that the armed men of the tribe were stealthily moving towards them. This discovery made him nervous. If there was a crossfire, it wouldn't be a problem to kill more than 20 armed men. After all, they weren't the special forces from last night, and their combat skills were much lower. But this was their territory. Once there was a crossfire, it would be equivalent to becoming enemies with thousands of armed men of the Whitestone tribe. The old man driving the goats seemed to have noticed something. He also left the main road and drove his goats to the right side of the hillside. Just then, a man on a horse came into sight. The man on the horse was wrapped in a bandana, and he wore a black traditional Afghan-style robe. The horse he was riding on was a big white horse. It looked very strong, and it ran very fast. Charlotte's gaze moved to the face of the man on the horse. He found that there were many wrinkles around the man's eyes, and his skin was very rough. This was a weather-beaten man, about 50 years old. Is he the guide? Charlotte asked. Tang Yuyin said, It should be him. Let's go. Then he said to the communicator, The rest of you stay in the car. If they don't attack, you can't open fire. Xiao Lei followed Tang Yuyin down from the carriage. The man on the horse also stopped the white horse and jumped down from its back. What are you doing? The Afghan man asked. We lost a few lambs, said Afghan. We lost a few lambs. We lost a few lambs of lambs. We lost a few lambs, he said. The Afghan man walked over to Tang Yuyin and Xiao Lei. With a smile on his face, he said in Pashto, I am your guide. My name is Muhammad Kaboud. You can call me Kaboud. Tang Yuyin shook Kaboud's hand. Fortunately, you came. If you were a little later, the situation would have become very bad. Are you talking about my people? No, they found you and informed me. Kaboud howled at the left side of the hill. The armed tribesmen who were hiding on the hillside immediately stood up and walked towards them with a normal gait. They also carried their guns on their backs. Brad said, I already know what happened last night. You were really unlucky to be ambushed by the Americans. However, your combat prowess is truly terrifying. My people admire you very much. Tang Yuyin just smiled faintly. The Americans are not very friendly here. The Americans were forcefully promoting their liberal values here, and these values were what the tribal elders hated the most. Different lands gave birth to different races and cultures. The result of promoting liberal values in a land where religion was paramount could be imagined even with one's toes. Xiale also completely relaxed. He also shook hands with Kabud. Kabud said, "My people and I will send you through our territory, and I will personally take you to Bamiyan Valley. But what will you give me in return?" Tang Yuyin said, "Name your price. You know our style. We will not treat any friend unfairly." Kabud smiled. "You Chinese are really straightforward. Well, $1 million. Tang Yuyin was stunned for a moment. $1 million, Kabud said. "If you don't have cash, you can transfer it." Tang Yuyin thought for a moment and said, "Wait a minute. I'll discuss it with my friend first." Although Xia Lei was right next to Kabud and Tang Yuyin, he had heard every word of their conversation. However, both of them were speaking in Pashto. He had just started learning Pashto and had learned very little, so he couldn't understand what they were saying. Just as he was wondering what the two were talking about, Tang Yuyin took his hand and took him to the side. "What are you talking about?" asked Charlotte. "I'm just going to discuss it with you," said Tang Yuyin. "He wants $1 million. I don't have that much money on me. It will be very troublesome to contact the headquarters. So much money needs to go through several levels of approval. After that, we have to go to the intelligence station to get it. We don't have time to waste. Do you have money?" Indeed, no one would carry $1 million in cash on a hostage rescue mission, but Charlotte was a moving treasury. After winning $1 billion from Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying last time, Shinda Tianyin opened an overseas offshore account for him. He also had a Swiss bank gold card with him, so he could pay the money at any time. Charlotte smiled bitterly. "I do, but I want to ask, do you still have it? What are you talking about?" Tang Yuyin rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "I'm not borrowing money from you. This is a special case. When we go back, Mr. Sure will pay you back." "Seriously, you're so petty." Charlotte looked at Tang Yuyin speechlessly. He casually asked for $1 million USD. How could this be considered petty? Tang Yuyin returned to Brad and said, "Deal, but we'll pay half first. The other half will be paid when we come back." "No problem." Brad said, "You can go to the village with me first. You can pay there. You can also take a rest and replenish your supplies." Tang Yuyin and Charlotte got in the car and drove to the village in the valley. Brad got back on his white horse and followed with his men. "Yuyin, isn't this guy one of us? Why do you still want to give him money?" Charlotte was puzzled. Tang Yuyin said, "He's not one of us. He's just an acquaintance who has done business with us. He's a backup option. Every operation has several plans to deal with different situations. This Brad is a very prestigious person in the Whitestone tribe. He can guarantee that we can pass through the Whitestone tribe's territory smoothly, but at a high price. Isn't this asking for money in disguise? This is their way of survival. There's no other way." Tang Yuyin said, "If we hadn't done business with him, he would probably have kidnapped us and asked for ransom. In addition, they also grow poppies to exchange for weapons and ammunition. In order to survive, they will do anything. I've already seen their poppy fields." Charlotte looked out of the window. It was a large poppy field. Poppies bloomed in the sun, bright in color, but exuding an evil aura. Several farmers looked up, but when they saw the tribal armed forces behind the car, they began to work again. The car entered the village, and a group of children chased and played around the car. A 10-year-old kid shouted at Charlotte and Tang Yin's car, "America! America!" Then he raised his hand and made a gesture of a gun. "Pa! Pa!" This kid obviously thought that Charlotte and Tang Yuyin were Americans. "Get out of here!" A tribal armed force roared from the group of children. The group of children scattered like birds and beasts, running away without a trace. Charlotte and Tang Yuyin got out of the car, and the agent from 101 Innings also got out from the other two cars. They also had guns in their hands, and they looked very alert, ready to deal with any sudden situation. "Don't be nervous. We're not enemies," Brad said. "Come with me. I want the $500,000. Charlotte and Tang Yuyin followed Brad into a room. Brad took out a computer and equipment for transferring money. This tribe did drug business, and the money they collected was international. There was no need to worry about not being able to transfer money. Charlotte transferred $500,000 to the account designated by Brad. Brad was very happy. He hugged Charlotte and laughed. "Friend, do you need women? I can give you two, both virgins." Charlotte didn't understand what he said, so he asked Tang Yuyin, "What did he say?" "He said he would give you two goats." "Do you want them?" Charlotte shook his head. "Why would I want goats? I don't want them." Tang Yuyin shrugged at Brad. "He's gay. He doesn't need women." Brad then let go of Xia Lei and distanced himself from them. "I'll take you to rest. You have 2 hours. You can replenish your water, food, and gasoline. You can also take a nap. We'll leave in 2 hours. Ask someone to prepare some hot food for us," Tang Yuyin said. "We're all hungry." Brad smiled. "No problem. I'll ask someone to roast a whole goat for you. I'll also prepare here, and then we can leave." "Okay," Tang Yuyin said. Charlotte still didn't understand, but he didn't ask. He was worried about the SWAT soldiers who had escaped. 17 of them had died. They couldn't just let it go. This was Afghanistan, but it was also the territory of the U.S. Army. This made him very worried. There was also one more thing. Where was his father, Xia Chang'e? Leaving Brad's room, a few women from the village swarmed over. They brought food and water. Tang Yuyin reached out her hand to grab the flatbread, but Xia Lei beat her to it. "Where's your demeanor?" Tang Yuyin said unhappily. Charlotte didn't pay attention to her. Instead, he quickly used his X-ray vision on the bread. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, he handed the bread to Tang Yuyin. "Forget it. You can have it. I'm waiting to eat roast lamb." Tang Yuyin rolled her eyes at Charlotte, but there was no anger in her eyes. From teaching each other martial arts to last night's battle, after experiencing so many things, her feelings towards Charlotte had changed subtly. It was just that she didn't realize it herself. Chapter 290. Leaving the village, the team of 101 innings had 3 more cars, 3 pickup trucks with machine guns. 2 were in front, 1 was at the back, and the 3 Ford Raptors of 101 innings were in the middle. That was the advantage of being paid. Brad and his men were acting as bodyguards for the rest of their lives. Of course, the price was also extremely high. Along the way, they passed by several armed checkpoints of the Whitestone tribe. It was also very smooth. Brad only needed to swipe his card to clear the stage. Within the territory of the Whitestone tribe, the speed of the convoy was also very fast, but after passing through the territory of the Whitestone tribe in the afternoon, it slowed down. After driving another 100 kilometers, the convoy entered Canyon. The 2 cars in front were driving at a speed of 25 kilometers per hour on the winding mountain road, which was a disturbing speed. After this canyon, the road will be easy. We'll be able to reach the Bamiyan Canyon after dark. Brad's voice came through the communicator. Tang Yuyin said, "Can you hurry up?" Brad said, "No, this is the area controlled by the armed forces of Santa Ida. If they find out, it will be very troublesome." "Can't you let them pass?" Tang Yuyin said. Brad laughed. "You know them. In their eyes, the whole world is their enemy." The conversation between the two was in Pashto. Charlotte could already understand a lot of words, but it was still very difficult to understand the content of the conversation between the two. He was in a Pashto environment, and every time he heard a Pashto word, the related content would appear in his mind, as well as grammar and pronunciation. Although this knowledge was downloaded from books, it was still very helpful to his studies. Therefore, the speed at which he learned Pashto was still very impressive. While Tang Yuyin was talking with Brad, who was driving, Charlotte's eyes were also observing the mountains on both sides of the canyon. The mountains here were very steep, and most of them were more than 2,000 meters above sea level. They looked majestic and precipitous, blocking the sun. As a result, the light in the canyon was dim, giving people a kind of eerie feeling. Glancing at the 10 o'clock direction, a man with a headscarf and a black cloth covering his face suddenly entered Charlotte's line of sight. He could see very clearly that the man was holding a pair of binoculars in his hand and was looking in his direction. He also had an AK-47 slung over his shoulder. Charlotte's gaze returned to the man's headscarf again. Suddenly, he compared the green text on the headscarf and roared, Santa Ida, Santa Ida, stop. This time he spoke in Pashto. Without Tang Yuyin's translation, Brad and his men could understand. Where? Tang Yuyin suddenly became nervous and blurted out. Charlotte cautiously put the binoculars in front of his eyes. 10 o'clock. In fact, he could only see a blurry figure through the telescope. It was far less clear than what he could see with his naked eyes. The two-armed pickup trucks in front also stopped, and Brad and his men got out of the vehicles. Tang Yuyin also ordered the vehicles to stop, and all the agents of 101 innings also got out of the vehicles and entered combat mode. Tang Yuyin and Charlotte walked to Brad's side. Brad also happened to put down the binoculars in his hands. He frowned and pointed to the 2 o'clock direction on the right and said in a heavy tone, "There's one there too." Tang Yuyin took the binoculars from Charlotte's hands and looked into the distance, but Charlotte turned around and walked to the Ford Raptor behind him. In fact, he had already seen the armed men of Santa Ida in the 2 o'clock direction on the right. The other party had cut off the only passage in the valley, and their attitude was actually very obvious. Charlotte took out the sniper rifle that he had personally modified from the back seat of the Ford Raptor and a large box of bullets. He had already prepared for the worst. Brad glanced at Charlotte and said, "No, they didn't attack us. Maybe we can pass through peacefully. I'll send someone to talk to them." Tang Yuyin translated Brad's words to Charlotte. Charlotte said, "Will those people let us pass?" Tang Yuyin said, "I don't know. Leave it to Brad. Don't act rashly for the time being." Charlotte nodded, but his eyes had already begun to search left and right, looking for a suitable sniping point. Brad sent one of his men to the opposite side. In front of them, a kilometer away from the mountain road, several war horses appeared, as well as armed men of Santa Ida riding on the horses. Brad's men were getting closer and closer, but the armed men of Santa Ida did not attack him. Brad smiled and said, "I guess they will ask for some money. I have already asked my men to tell them that you are willing to pay $10,000 in exchange for peace. I think you're also willing to pay this money, right?" Tang Yuyin cursed in her heart, but said, "No problem." It was impossible for her to go out on a mission without cash. She certainly could not pay the $1 million that Brad had asked before, but it was not a problem for her to pay more than $10,000. That's good. Brad seemed more relaxed. Here, money can solve all problems. Charlotte carried the sniper rifle and walked to the hillside on the right, carrying the big box of special bullets in his hand. Tang Yuyin said, "Where are you going? What are you going to do?" Charlotte did not look back. "I'm going to the toilet. Do you want to come with me?" Tang Yuyin, after getting to know each other, Charlotte and she could joke casually. What's more, he was now her husband. On the mountain road, several armed men on horseback had lost their patience. They rode forward for a while and came to Brad's men. Two armed men jumped off the horses. Without saying anything, the first thing they did was to disarm the armed man of the Whitestone tribe. Brad took the communicator and said, "Tell them who we are. We are from the Whitestone tribe. We don't want to fight. We are willing to pay $10,000 for them to let us pass." On the mountain road, Brad's man handed the communicator to an armed man from Santa Ida. One of the armed men from Santa Ida took the communicator but did not speak. Instead, he kicked Brad's man in the lower abdomen. The latter was kicked to the ground. Another armed man from Santa Ida grabbed Brad's man's hair and pulled him up from the ground. Then, he pulled out a 2-foot-long saber from his waist. Without the slightest hesitation, the armed man from Santa Ida, with the saber, slashed the neck of Brad's man. Blood splashed, and Brad's man's head rolled off his neck. "Damn it!" Brad clenched his fists and roared angrily. "Do you know what you have done?" "Ah." The voice of the armed man from Santa Ida, who was responsible for the beheading, came from the communicator. "Listen, people of the Whitestone tribe. You have colluded with the infidels. You will be punished by Allah. You and the infidels who are with you will all die here. Get ready to fight." Tang Yuyin and Brad gave the order almost at the same time, but the language they used was different. The armed man from Santa Ida, who was responsible for the beheading, raised a hand and gave a thumbs up. Then, he turned his fist and pointed his thumb to the ground. It was a sign of death. Bang! A gunshot rang out. The armed man from Santa Ida, who had just made the sign of death, had a big hole in his chest. A sniper rifle bullet had exploded his heart. He had just beheaded the people of the Whitestone tribe, and now he was killed. In this land, human life was the most worthless thing. The bullet completely enraged the armed men from Santa Ida. One of the armed men from Santa Ida on horseback roared. The armed men from Santa Ida on both sides of the hillside charged toward them. Because they were about 1,500 meters away, no one fired, but at least 70 or 80 armed men from Santa Ida appeared on both sides of the hillside. They were familiar with the terrain here, and their charging speed was very fast. At their speed, the situation where there was no gunfire would be broken in a few minutes. The fastest ones were naturally the few armed men from Santa Ida. They spurred their horses toward them, shouting and waving the AK-47s in their hands. They were not afraid of death. Bang! The head of an armed man from Santa Ida was blown up by a sniper rifle bullet. The headless body swayed on the back of the horse, then fell under the belly of the horse, and was dragged forward by the horse. Just a second later, another gunshot rang out, and another armed man from Santa Ida on horseback became a headless body. The horse dragged the body and ran wildly, and the blood that gushed from the body dyed the ground red. Another second later, the third Santa Ida cavalryman fell from the back of the horse. The remaining two Santa Ida cavalrymen stopped their horses in panic, turned around, and ran back. Even terrorists would tremble in fear in front of the Grim Reaper. Bang, bang. Two gunshots rang out one after another, and the last two Santa Ida cavalrymen also fell from the back of their horses. Your friend is really good. Brad was very excited and asked tentatively, "Is he a professional sniper?" Tang Yuyin said, "He is actually my husband." Huh? Brad looked very surprised. Bang, bang, bang. A series of gunshots interrupted the conversation between the two. The machine gunner, standing in the armed pickup truck, fired at the three horses that rushed over, dragging the corpses. The bullets from the heavy machine gun directly tore the horses apart. On the mountain road, there were fragments of the bodies of horses and people everywhere. After shooting the horses, the sniper rifle pulled up the barrel and fired at the hillside. The machine gun vibrated, and the cartridges of the long machine gun bullets jumped and fell to the ground with a tinkling sound. The range of the heavy machine gun was longer than that of the sniper rifle, and its power was also far greater than that of the sniper rifle. Therefore, before the opponent got close, the machine gunner was the first to enter the battle. However, less than a minute after the sniper rifle started shooting crazily, a bullet flew out of nowhere and blew up his head. "There's a sniper!" Tang Yuyin screamed, and hid behind a rock on the side of the road. The agents of 101 innings also quickly found cover. An armed man of the Whitestone tribe was half a beat too slow and was hit in the heart by a bullet. He fell to the ground. Compared with the agents of 101 innings, the armed men of the Whitestone tribe were many levels lower in combat. Find a sniper and kill him," Tang Yuyin shouted into the communicator. Charlotte's voice came from the communicator. "Give me a minute." A minute? It only took a minute to find the enemy's hidden sniper and kill him. Tang Yuyin was very surprised. Is he a sniper god? Chapter 291. Most of the mountains in Afghanistan were barren, rugged, rocky mountains with very little vegetation. Charlotte's effective visual range was more than 4,000 meters, and he also had the ability of microvision and X-ray vision. It was not difficult for him to find the sniper of the Santa Ida armed forces in the mountains with very little vegetation. Because it was impossible for the sniper's rifle to have a range of more than 1,500 meters, and he only needed to search within a range of 600 to 1,200 meters to find the sniper. In less than 30 seconds, Charlotte found the sniper of the Santa Ida armed forces based on the direction where the machine gunner was shot. He was wearing a khaki cloak and a hat made of twigs and grass on his head, which was a simple disguise. Such a disguise could barely deceive the people of the Whitestone tribe, but it was nowhere to hide from him. The only problem was that the guy was hiding in a pile of rocks, and it was difficult for Charlotte to focus on him from his current position. The sniper of the Santa Ida Armed Forces killed another armed man of the Whitestone tribe. Brad ordered his men to shoot wildly in the direction where the sniper was hiding, but the bullets fired by their guns could not reach the position of the sniper at all. The sniper was at least 1,200 meters away from them, which was not a distance that the bullets of the AK-47 could reach. This distance also showed the effective range of the sniper's sniper rifle. The sniper rifle in his hand was not the most advanced sniper rifle, and the furthest range would not exceed 1,500 meters. His position was closer to here than the armed men of Santa Ida who were advancing on the hillside, and he was probably lying in ambush at the forefront. Charlotte suddenly stood up and roared. Charlotte's roar echoed in the valley, and it immediately attracted the sniper of the Santa Ida Armed Forces. He adjusted the muzzle and saw Charlotte standing on a rock on the opposite hillside through the scope. He also saw the sniper rifle in Charlotte's hand. The sniper of the Santa Ida Armed Forces sneered, exposed his head from the surface of the rock, and shot at Charlotte. But when he exposed his head to shoot at Charlotte, Charlotte suddenly raised his gun and fired at him. 2 bullets brushed past each other in the air. The bullet fired by the sniper of Santa Ida crossed the canyon, but it only hit a stone dozens of meters below Charlotte. At the same time, a bullet penetrated the camouflage hat made of twigs and grass, shattering the head of the sniper from Santa Ida. This was the difference in eyesight. With his left eye, Charlotte could determine the straight-line distance between him and the sniper of the Santa Ida Armed Organization. It was 1,600 meters. The sniper of Santa Ida discovered Charlotte with his scope, but he could not estimate the distance between him and Charlotte. He thought it was 1,500 meters, and he also judged that Charlotte was within his shooting range. However, it was this distance of 100 meters that made him make a fatal mistake. The sniper from Santa Ida also made a mistake. That was, he greatly underestimated the ugly sniper rifle in Charlotte's hands that did not even have a scope. Could a sniper rifle without a scope still be considered a sniper rifle? He felt that the gun could only be regarded as a rifle. However, if he knew that the range of the ugly sniper rifle had reached a terrifying 3,200 meters, he probably would not have rashly tried to shoot Charlotte. Saleh had removed the scope on the sniper rifle on purpose, as it would be disadvantageous for him to shoot with the scope installed. "It's done," Charlotte said into the communicator. Tang Yuyin was still in a daze because she saw Charlotte suddenly stand up and fire a shot, and then she heard Charlotte say that it was done. She suddenly had an illusion. Was Charlotte playing a game like Call of Duty? But before Tang Yuyin could look at it for a second, Charlotte hid behind the pile of rocks again. From beginning to end, Tang Yuyin only saw Charlotte suddenly stand up and fire a shot, and then nothing. She did not even see Charlotte remove the scope of the sniper rifle. If she had seen it, her jaw might have been broken on the ground. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and a Santa Ida armed personnel 2,500 meters away was suddenly knocked to the ground. A bullet exploded his head, and only his mouth was left. It was a horrible death. Charlotte's hunt had just begun. There were as many as 100 Santa Ida armed personnel on both sides of the hillside. Once they approached, he and the agents of 101 innings would be in a very dangerous situation. Tang Yuyin only brought 10 elites this time. In the battle with the American Special Forces last night, 3 had already died. They could not afford to lose anymore. Otherwise, who would go with him to rescue the trapped Serenity and the members of the expert team? After experiencing 2 battles, Charlotte's heart no longer felt like killing, and he had also adapted to the atmosphere of the battlefield. Hiding behind the pile of rocks, he was very calm. He specifically targeted the enemies at the front and shot, 1 shot for 1, and never missed. The enemies charging from both sides of the hillside did not notice when their snipers were killed. It was not until more than a dozen of their companions fell that they realized there was a terrifying sniper on the other side. They did not dare to rush in rashly. Hiding behind the rocks, they blindly shot at the mountain road in the direction where Charlotte was hiding. After paying the price of more than a dozen people, some of the Santa Ida armed personnel had already rushed to within 500 meters. These Sanaida armed personnel mostly used weapons like AK-47s. The effective range was roughly between 400 meters, but the scale could be adjusted to 800 meters. Stray bullets could also be lethal at more than 1,000 meters. Therefore, even if they were far away, when dozens of people opened fire at the same time, the bullets whizzed in the air. This situation was also very dangerous for Charlotte and his allies at the foot of the hill, because as long as one's luck was bad enough, a stray bullet flying out of nowhere would take a person's life. Although he was hiding outside the effective range of the Sanaida armed personnel, Charlotte did not dare to be careless. He would not easily show his head from under the pile of rocks. He extended the barrel of the sniper rifle through the gap between the rocks and used his X-ray vision to snipe the nearest target. Even with such a cautious and conservative sniping, he did not miss. One shot for one enemy. One shot for one enemy. Such marksmanship made the Sanaida armed personnel shudder. They had the absolute advantage in numbers, but they were actually suppressed by Charlotte on both sides of the hillside with one shot. They did not dare to move recklessly, because once they showed their head, the next second, a bullet would fly over and kill that person. Charlotte attracted most of the firepower. The agents of Innings 101 and the armed personnel of the Whitestone tribe at the foot of the hill hardly felt the pressure of the crossfire. In the end, they even stopped shooting, unwilling to waste ammunition for the enemy hiding behind the rocks. Mrs. Yang, your husband is really amazing. You should be the best sniper I have ever seen. Beside Tang Yuyan, Brad could not contain his excitement. If I knew he was so good, I would not have sent my people to negotiate. His sacrifice is worthless. Tang Yuyan gave Charlotte the pseudonym Yang Guo, so of course Brad had to call her Mrs. Yang. But Brad did not know Yang Guo was a famous person in China. A stray bullet suddenly flew over and hit the rock that the two of them were hiding on. Sparks flew everywhere, and the rock fragments flew everywhere. A piece of rock pierced Tang Yuyan's shoulder, and a stream of blood flowed out, immediately drenching her clothes. "You're hurt," Brad exclaimed. "I'm fine. Let your people guard here. I'll go support my husband," Tang Yuyan said. She looked at the pile of rocks where Charlotte was hiding. He attracted most of the firepower, which made her worried. "No problem." Brad then ordered his men to shoot up the hillside, providing cover fire and buying time for Tang Yuyan. Gunshots rang out from the hillside, and bullets poured down the hillside on both sides like raindrops. Tang Yuyan took a deep breath and rushed to the hillside on the right, where Charlotte was. She was extremely fast. The steep hillside was like flat ground under her feet, and it almost did not affect her figure and speed. Looking at Tang Yuyan charging up the steep slope like a mountain goat, Bullard opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it no matter how hard he tried. The husband was a heaven-defying sniper, and the wife was also ridiculously strong. Chapter 292. Without waiting for Tang Yuyan to say anything, Charlotte threw her down and ran to higher ground. On both sides of the hillside, dozens of Sanaida armed forces swarmed out for behind cover. The rocket just now destroyed the pile of rocks that Charlotte relied on to hide in. Even if it did not directly hit, the fragments of the rocks were enough to kill Charlotte. This was the judgment of the Sanaida armed forces, and it was also their experience. The distance between the two sides shortened, and the battle suddenly became white-hot. Gunshots, grenades, and RPGs exploded everywhere. Fire, smoke, and fragments of rocks danced in the air, intersecting with each other. It was extremely chaotic. Because of the low terrain, the Whitestone armed forces at the front lost a few bodies and were quickly defeated. As soon as they were defeated, the pressure on the agents of 101 innings behind them increased several times, and the situation became critical. "We can't hold on any longer." Section Chief Tang. The voice of the agent of 101 innings came through the communicator. "What do we do?" "Hold on." Tang Yuyan gritted her teeth, turned around, and rushed down the hillside. She rushed up the hillside because she was worried about Charlotte's safety, but Charlotte did not seem to appreciate her kindness. She was too lazy to care about Charlotte. She needed to take care of the line below. On the hillside, behind a big tree, Charlotte reached out and pulled out the rock fragments that were embedded in his buttocks. The burning pain spread from his buttocks to the rest of his body, and he grimaced in pain. The wound was still bleeding, but there were no important blood vessels in his buttocks, and the amount of bleeding had decreased significantly. Charlotte was too lazy to deal with it. He looked up at the canopy above his head, bent his legs, and jumped up. He reached out and grabbed a branch that was 4 meters above the ground. The next second, he swung gently, and his body swayed. Then he climbed to a higher position and raised his gun to search for the target. The canopy was at least 15 meters above the ground, and Charlotte, who poked his head out from the edge of the canopy, had a wider field of vision. On the opposite hillside, as well as at the bottom of the hillside on the right, there were armed men from Santa Ida. Since he was at a higher position, the entire canyon battlefield was within his field of vision. The armed forces of Santa Ida seemed to have forgotten about his existence as they crazily charged towards the position below. At this moment, they revealed the characteristics of terrorists who were not afraid of death. The canyon was filled with their roars, such as, "Long live Allah," and so on. "You think I'm dead? Then go to hell." Charlotte's lips curled into a sinister smile. Then, he pulled the trigger. In his field of vision, the head of a Santa Ida armed man carrying a Soviet-made RPG exploded like a watermelon falling to the ground. And this was just the beginning. One by one, the armed men of Santa Ida fell into a pool of blood. They were at the bottom. Even if they hid behind the rocks, it was difficult for them to avoid the mysterious bullets. The intense gunfire and the sound of grenades exploding also made it impossible for them to determine the location of the sniper who had resurrected. In this case, they were equivalent to live targets placed in a shooting range. Once they were locked on by Charlotte, they would report to hell in the next second. With the decrease of their numbers, the armed men of Santa Ida, who had lost the advantage in numbers, began to flee, but they ultimately failed to escape the palm of the Grim Reaper. The armed men of the Whitestone tribe once again used the heavy machine gun on the pickup truck and fired wildly at them. They were lucky to avoid the bullets from the machine gun, but they could not avoid Charlotte's sniper. One by one, they fell on the road to escape. Bang! The modified sniper rifle roared, and a bullet shot out, instantly piercing the heart of a Santa Ida armed man 700 meters away. This was the last target. After he fell to the ground, Charlotte put away the sniper rifle and slid down from the tree. His tense nerves were completely relaxed at this moment. After returning to the ground, Charlotte slumped on the ground, gasping for breath. In this battle, he had killed no less than 50 armed men of Santa Ida. Including the battle last night, he had killed more than 60 people in 24 hours. America's deadliest marksman, Christian, had killed more than 160 people on the battlefield in Iraq, but that was in the span of a few years. On the other hand, Charlotte had killed more than 60 armed men in one day. They were all snipers, but the difference between the strong and the weak was obvious. If Christian and Charlotte had a sniper competition, he would have been the one to die, not Charlotte. In this world, no one could compete with Charlotte because his left eye was an existence that could not be surpassed and imitated. 52. Longbing is right. If I kill too many people, I won't feel anything anymore. Will I become a cold-blooded person? When it was quiet, Charlotte's heart came up with such a strange question. If he had a choice, he absolutely did not want to do so, but this was the battlefield. If he did not kill, he would be killed. He had no other choice. "Lei!" Tang Yuyin's voice came from the hillside. "Where are you?" Under the hillside, the agents of Innings 101 and the armed men of the Whitestone tribe began to clean up the battlefield. If they encountered someone who was gasping for breath, they would shoot them. For terrorists, no one would have the slightest mercy. Tang Yuyin would not do these things. She climbed up the hillside to find Charlotte. Charlotte had just annoyed her, but it was only a momentary anger. After the battle, she was most concerned about Charlotte. "I'm up there." Hearing Tang Yuyin's voice, Charlotte put away his thoughts. He took out the sniper rifle that he had disassembled from his backpack and reloaded it. Tang Yuyin soon appeared in his field of vision. She was also carrying a first aid kit in her hand. Charlotte got up from the ground and walked towards Tang Yuyin. As soon as he walked, he suddenly felt a tingling sensation on his butt. Only then did he remember that his butt was injured. Tang Yuyin walked quickly and asked with concern, "How is your injury?" Charlotte looked back at his bloody butt and smiled bitterly. "It's not a big deal. It's just that I can't wear these pants." "Why do you still care about pants at this time?" Tang Yuyin rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Then, her gaze fell on the sniper rifle in Charlotte's hand. She said in surprise, "Didn't you say that the scope was broken?" "I fixed it." Charlotte had already prepared an answer. "Otherwise, how could I fight? Do you know how many enemies you killed?" Tang Yuyin believed that Charlotte was done. Charlotte shook his head. "I don't know. Probably. How many enemies was it not an exaggeration to say that he had killed?" This was a problem. But at this moment, the voice of an agent from Innings 101 who was cleaning up the battlefield came through the communicator. "Oh my God, Section Chief Tang, Consultant Xia, killed 52 enemies. Oh my God." Clang. The first aid kit in Tang Yuyin's hand fell to the ground. Along with the first aid kit, her chin seemed to have also fallen to the ground. Her small mouth could no longer be closed. Charlotte pretended to be confused. He probably counted wrongly. But I didn't count carefully. I don't know how many enemies I killed. The number of enemies killed by the sniper rifle was actually very obvious. It was useless for him to pretend to be confused because the people cleaning up the battlefield could easily identify the people killed by the sniper rifle and calculate the exact number. Tang Yuyin came back to her senses. She looked at Charlotte with a strange look in her eyes. "Long Bing is known as the best sniper in our 101 innings, but now I find that she's not even worthy to carry your shoes." Charlotte was speechless. Tang Yuyin smiled and said, "When I go back, I'll tell Mr. Sure that you will be our chief sniper in 101 innings from now on." "Don't," Charlotte hurriedly said. "Don't tell your godfather about this. I don't want to be a chief sniper. Don't look for me for such a task in the future. I'm just a legitimate businessman. We'll talk about this later. Turn your butt around. I'll take a look at it and bandage it." Tang Yuyin opened the first aid kit. It seemed that she was ready to treat Charlotte's injury. Tang Yuyin was ready to be a battlefield doctor, but Charlotte did not move. He said awkwardly, "Well, my injury is not a problem. There's no need to treat it. This is an order. Turn around." Tang Yuyin looked fierce. "Besides, I'm a girl, and I don't mind you. Why are you still being coy? Don't waste time. Hurry up." Charlotte hesitated for a moment and finally turned around. Tang Yuyin reached out and uncovered the rags on his butt. She saw the terrible wound where the muscles were turned out. She frowned and said, "Take off your pants. I have to stitch your wound." "Ah." Charlotte was stunned on the spot. "Take it off." Tang Yuyin was even more fierce. "This is a battlefield. There's no need to be so particular. You think your injury is not a problem, but look at yourself. Such a big and deep wound. If you don't stitch it, what will you do if it gets infected? If you lose your ability to move, if you encounter Santa Ita's armed team again, we'll snipe them." Charlotte looked back. He first saw Tang Yuyin's red face and then saw the terrible wound. He had also studied medicine. In fact, he also knew that such a wound could easily get infected if not treated, and then become inflamed and suppurated. It was not only troublesome, but also very dangerous. However, he always felt very uncomfortable to let a beauty like Tang Yuyin stitch the wound on his butt naked. It was as if there was a hurdle in front of him, and he could not cross it. "You don't want to take it off? I'll do it myself." Tang Yuyin reached out and grabbed Charlotte's belt. Okay, I'll do it myself." Charlotte threw caution to the wind. He bit the bullet and untied his belt. Then he slowly pulled down his pants. He only took off his outer pants. He was not willing to take off his underwear. However, just as Charlotte took off his pants, Tang Yuyin suddenly grabbed his underwear and pulled it down. His bloody buttocks were instantly exposed to the air. What are you doing?" Charlotte said in a panic. "Do you want me to stitch your underwear and your wound together?" Tang Yuyin said. Charlotte had nothing to say. Tang Yuyin inserted the surgical needle and then squatted behind Charlotte's buttocks. She pinched his wound with one hand and used her other hand to insert the needle into the open flesh. Hiss! Without anesthesia, Charlotte was in so much pain that he sucked in a cold breath. Show your courage. Don't be like a woman. Tang Yin used words to provoke Charlotte, but her eyes went through Charlotte's legs and saw something. Her cheeks were red and hot, and her heart was beating fast. Do you have anesthesia? Charlotte couldn't stand the pain. There's one, but I won't give it to you. Tang Yin said. Why? Anesthesia will affect the speed of wound healing. You have to get better as soon as possible, so you can't use anesthesia. You're really ruthless. Next time, if your buttocks get hurt, I won't use anesthesia to stitch it up. This angry remark made Tang Yin have a related association. In her mind, she imagined the scene. Her glossy white buttocks, and Charlotte was holding a surgical needle. His mouth was drooling as he stitched up her wound. This fantasy annoyed her. She suddenly waved her hand and slapped Charlotte's buttocks. Pa! A crisp sound was heard. The place that had just been stitched up split open. Ah! A scream echoed in the valley. Chapter 293. Hundreds of corpses of Santa Ita's armed men were abandoned in the valley. They would become food for the crows and wolves. The convoy passed through the canyon and continued forward. In this battle, several armed men from the Whitestone tribe had died, and 2 agents from 101 innings had also died. This was unavoidable. As long as there was war, people would die. This was actually the best ending. If it weren't for Charlotte, without his personally modified sniper rifle, everyone would have died here. No one could leave this valley alive. Brad and his men abandoned a pickup truck, one to lead the way, the other to hold the rear. This was the benefit of paying. Although more than half of them had been killed or injured, they still had to play the dual role of protectors and guides. However, this was not because they had a lot of credibility, but because there were still $500,000 in their accounts. Tang Yin drove behind the armed pickup truck at the front. In addition to looking at the road, she occasionally glanced at Charlotte, who was sitting in the passenger seat. She didn't know why, but every time she looked at Charlotte, she would think of Charlotte's buttocks and what she had seen from between his legs. Therefore, she always blushed inexplicably, feeling embarrassed and shy. Charlotte didn't notice this. He was holding a map and looking for the destination. The map was Tang Yin's map. There was a circle drawn with a red marker on it. The location was deep in the Bamiyan Canyon, about 150 kilometers away from the world-famous Bamiyan Buddha. The place marked by the circle was the destination of this rescue operation. At the current speed, if there were no accidents, they could arrive at the destination by nightfall. There are fewer and fewer people. If we can't go back the way we came, how are we going to go back? Charlotte broke the silence in the car. Tang Yin said, You don't need to worry about this kind of thing. Didn't I tell you that there are several plans for every operation? This time is no exception. If we can't go back the way we came, we can go back through the walking corridor. Afghanistan is bordered by land, and the walking corridor is also the ancient Silk Road. We can go back from there. Oh, Charlotte just responded faintly. His eyes fell on the map again, sweeping over the names one by one as he secretly pondered. My dad must know that I'm in Afghanistan. He might even know that I participated in the battle. Will he take the initiative to meet me? If he didn't show himself, where would he be? These questions troubled him. You seem to have something on your mind. What are you thinking about? Tang Yin probed. Charlotte put away the map and said with a smile, Nothing. I'm thinking about how to get rid of Brad's $500,000. Tang Yin shook her head. We can't lose our credibility. Otherwise, who will work for us in the future? Even if we don't go back the way we came, I will pay the remaining $500,000. We don't lack money, we only lack friends. Then, she rolled her eyes at Charlotte. You really are a miser. Are all businessmen like this? Charlotte just smiled. His purpose was to divert Tang Yin's attention, and he obviously succeeded. At that moment, the machine gunner in the pickup truck in front suddenly shouted in panic. Charlotte didn't understand what he said, but Tang Yin exclaimed, The U.S. drone. Charlotte was shocked. He poked his head out of the window and looked up. There was indeed a flying object in the sky, about 3,000 meters high. The machine gunner who discovered it could only see a vague shape, but Charlotte saw everything clearly. It was a U.S. Predator carrying 2 Hellfire air-to-ground missiles. He even saw the stars and stripes on the Predator's body, as well as the designation and serial number of the Army unit it belonged to. This was a battlefield dominated by the U.S. military. After the failure of last night's operation, some people would definitely not give up. "Shoot it down," Tang Yuyin ordered decisively. An agent from Division 101 climbed out of a Ford Raptor at the back. He was carrying a shoulder-mounted air defense missile on his shoulder. The Predator in the sky suddenly increased its altitude and flew to the side. "It's gone." The voice of the agent from 101 innings came through the communicator. "I didn't have time to lock onto it," Tang Yuyin said. "Stay in the truck and stay alert in case it comes back again." The drone's flying speed was not fast. Once it was locked on, it would be difficult to escape the fate of being shot down. The person controlling the Predator must have noticed the situation on the ground and avoided it. Charlotte frowned. Its purpose doesn't seem to be to attack us. It actually had the chance to launch the missile, but it didn't. It might be monitoring us. Those guys are really persistent. They attacked us last night. Do they really think we're easy to bully? If it dares to show its head again, I'll shoot it down. Tang Yuyin's face was filled with anger. Charlotte didn't respond. He looked at the sky with a heavy heart. At this point, he was more and more certain that he was being targeted by the CIA. The mysterious armed men last night and the Predator just now were all targeting him. The Predator didn't launch the Hellfire missile on Iraq. It wasn't because the CIA was being merciful, but because they didn't want a burnt body. They wanted to capture him alive. Thinking of this, a familiar face suddenly appeared in Charlotte's mind. He sighed in his heart. The CIA wants to capture me. I wonder if she's involved? She, Liang Xiao, was a woman he was destined to never forget in this life. If Liang Xiao was involved in this operation and they met on the battlefield, would she shoot him? The Predator didn't appear again. The shoulder-mounted anti-aircraft missile wasn't a slingshot. If it dared to appear again, it would definitely become a pile of scrap metal. However, Charlotte believed that even if the Predator didn't come to investigate, the CIA must have grasped his whereabouts by now through the U.S. military satellite system. The rest of the journey was much calmer. They didn't encounter anything unusual until it was dark. The ruins of the Bamiyan Buddhas are up ahead. Brad's voice came from the communicator. "Let's take a break there. Our car needs some gas, and we also need to eat something." Tang Yuyin responded to him. "Okay, let's rest for half an hour up ahead." The convoy stopped in an open space by the roadside. Charlotte got out of the car with his sniper rifle. He always had the gun in his hand, and he always carried a large box of ammunition in his backpack. On this piece of land, this was the only way he could feel a sense of security. The Bamiyan Buddhas were in front of him, but they were no longer the majestic and sacred giant Buddha statue. Instead, they were a pile of shattered rocks. However, from the top of the mountain, they could still see the grotto that housed the Buddha statue. It was very spectacular. The armed men of the Whitestone tribe began to get busy. They refueled the vehicles, added water to the water tanks, and some took out food to distribute. The agents at Innings 101 were not idle either. Some were checking the vehicles and weapons, while others took out food and distributed it. Charlotte also received a portion, which was a bag of high-calorie beef jerky and a bottle of mineral water. After taking the food, he walked towards the ruins of the Bamiyan Buddhas. The injury on his but had not healed, and his walking posture was a little awkward. "What are you doing?" Tang Yuyin looked at Charlotte curiously. Charlotte looked back at her. "I'm going to the bathroom. Is there a problem?" Tang Yuyin smiled and said, "No problem. Just be careful. Don't get bitten by a snake or something. If that happens, you won't be able to go to the bathroom." Charlotte was speechless. The two of them were getting closer, and their jokes were getting bigger and bigger. Charlotte solved the problem behind a rock, and then continued to walk towards the ruins of the Bamiyan Buddhas. He was not a devout Buddhist, but the ancient and vicissitudes of life emanating from the ruins of the Bamiyan Buddhas aroused his curiosity. This was a miracle with more than 1,500 years of history. Since he was passing by, he had to take a look no matter what. The two Buddhas were 400 meters apart, one in the east and one in the west. The one in the east had been completely blown up, and the one in the west was also full of holes. However, the torso was still intact, and the body of the Buddha could be seen in front of him. Charlotte walked towards the Buddha in the west. When he arrived at the foot of the Buddha, he looked up at the Buddha body that had lost its head, and his heart was filled with awe. The people of 1,500 years ago had created this miracle with their hands and hammers, but the armed men of Santa Ida had destroyed it with explosives. Why couldn't one faith tolerate other faiths? After watching quietly for a while, Charlotte withdrew his gaze and prepared to return to the convoy. However, just as he was about to leave, he saw something white stuck to the sole of the Buddha's foot. It was a piece of chewed gum. Who would be so wicked as to do such a low-class thing? However, it was this piece of gum stuck to the foot of the Buddha statue that made Charlotte excited. When he was in Peshawar, the Russian woman used gum to send him a message about his father. Suddenly seeing chewed gum in this desolate and uninhabited place, it was obvious what it meant. Xiale walked over and pulled off the chewing gum stuck to the foot of the Buddha. He gently squeezed it, and there was a roll of hard stuff hidden inside. He followed the opening of the gum and found a sticky note hidden inside. Unfolding the note, a familiar handwriting suddenly entered Charlotte's sight. Why didn't you listen to my advice and insisted on coming to Afghanistan? You have been targeted by the CIB, and they won't let you go. Your destination is the White Hun tribe, the Divination Flame tribe. I know I can't stop you from going there now. After you get there, leave your friends, and I will let Yelena meet you. The handwriting on the note was his father, Xia Chang's. Charlotte looked around and instantly activated the ability of his left eye. The darkness didn't affect his vision at all. At that moment, he could even see the scorpions crawling on the gravel a kilometer away. However, he didn't see his father, Xia Changhe, or the blonde Russian girl, Yelena. Hey, are you done? Tang Yuyin's voice came. We should go. Coming. Charlotte responded and turned to walk back to the convoy. This time, he ate the note, but he didn't eat the gum. He just threw it into a crack in the rock. What kind of place was the White Hun tribe? Chapter 294. Night fell, and the convoy was traveling through a dark valley. The headlights of the car dispelled the darkness, but that was only part of it. The mountain peaks on both sides of the mountain road stood like giants, giving off an ancient and majestic feeling. They were like warriors guarding some secret, and they could crush the tiny humans with a single stomp at any time. The road in the valley became worse and narrower, and in the end, there was only a narrow, winding path left. The convoy was forced to stop. Mr. Brad, did you take us the wrong way? Tang Yuyin got out of the car and questioned Brad. Brad shook his head. I'm familiar with every inch of Afghanistan. The place you're going to is the Bamiyan Grand Canyon, which is this place. We're now in the deepest part of the canyon, and my job is done. Can you give me the rest of the money? Tang Yuyin frowned. Our deal was to pay the remaining $500,000 after we safely returned to the Whitestone tribe. Not now. Half of the people I brought with me died. Shouldn't I get the money in advance? Brad's face turned cold. A few of the armed men from the Whitestone tribe raised their muzzles a little, intentionally or unintentionally. Two of them even opened the safety, looking like they were ready to shoot at any time. Behind Tang Yuyin, the 5 surviving agents from 101 innings also spread out, and the rifles in their hands were slightly raised. The atmosphere became tense all of a sudden. At this time, Charlotte pushed open the car door and walked out. In his hands was the modified sniper rifle and a pistol suitable for close combat. He walked slowly to Tang Yuyin's side and just stood there, not doing anything. As soon as Charlotte appeared, the armed men from the Whitestone tribe and Brad immediately became nervous. They could not be afraid of Tang Yuyin and the agents from 101 innings, but along the way, Charlotte was like a god of war in their hearts. With him around, who dared to act rashly? Tang Yin's face was no longer friendly, and her voice was cold. Mr. Brad, I regard you as a friend, and we have the best reputation in this land. Do you think I will renege on my debt of $500,000? Why did you have to do this? Brad turned around and slapped the face of one of his men who had raised the muzzle the highest and angrily rebuked, "Bastard, are you out of your mind? Put away your guns." Several armed men of the Whitestone tribe also put away their guns. Brad smiled awkwardly. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Yang. My men are insensible. We are not enemies. We are friends." Tang Yin's expression softened a little. "That's good." She unfolded the map in her hand and handed it to Brad. "You can collect the money in advance. Take us to the place marked on the map." Brad looked at it seriously, and his expression suddenly became serious. "Why didn't you tell me that this is the place you want to go? I know there's a very old tribe there." "Take us there, and then you can get the money in advance," Tang Yin said. "No." Brad shook his head quickly. "That is the tribe of the White Hun. I will not go there. I also advise you not to go there." Charlotte looked at the two of them talking. He had been exposed to Pashto for 2 days and could understand some of it now, but he still could not completely understand what the two of them were saying. However, from the map in Tang Yin's hand, he could guess that Tang Yin wanted Brad to take her to the place marked on the map. Charlotte thought to himself, the place marked on the map is probably the White Hun tribe that father mentioned, right? Judging from Brad's reaction, he seems to be afraid of that place. At this time, Tang Yin said again, "Take us there. In addition to the $500,000, I will give you another $500,000. Brad's face was full of hesitation. $1 million was a huge sum of money for the entire Whitestone tribe. If he could get this money, the Whitestone tribe could arm more people. More importantly, if he could get this money, his status in the tribe would also be greatly improved. However, when he thought of the ancient tribe and the legends about it, he could not help but feel a burst of fear in his heart. He could not make a decision for a long time. Tang Yin said, "My husband is here. What are you afraid of? Do you see the weapons we are carrying? As long as we leave that tribe alive, I will give them to you as a gift." The corner of Brad's mouth moved slightly, including the shoulder-launched anti-aircraft missile. Tang Yin nodded. "Of course, not only the launcher, but I will also give you a few missiles." "Deal." The chips were increased again and again, and Brad was finally tempted. People die for wealth, and birds die for food. This saying was true everywhere. 10 minutes later, the team set off again. Brad left 2 of his men to guard the vehicles, and he personally led the team forward along the winding path on the side of the mountain. The path became narrower and narrower. It twisted and turned in the mountains, and finally became a dangerous path embedded in the cliffs. Brad walked in the front, Tang Yin followed behind him, and Charlotte followed closely behind Tang Yin. Behind him were 5 agents from 101 innings and 4 armed men from the Whitestone tribe. The 12 of them groped their way forward on the cliffs. Stones constantly fell from under their feet, making a hair-raising collision sound. Charlotte looked up at the dark night sky from time to time. He could not help but wonder if there was a satellite locked on this area and spying on everything here. "Madam Yang, can you tell me why you're going to the White Hun tribe?" Brad suddenly asked. "We have a few experts trapped in that area. We're bringing them back to our country," Tang Yin said. "It's just a normal mission. How much do you know there?" "Not at all," Tang Yin said. "I'm a soldier. Carrying out missions is my duty." Brad smiled bitterly. "You really should know more about that place. If you knew enough, you wouldn't have been so brave to go to the White Hun tribe." Charlotte understood some of this. He quietly touched Tang Yin's waist, then moved closer to Tang Yin's ear and said in a low voice, "Ask him. We need more information about the White Hun tribe." "I know without you reminding me." Tang Yin rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Her ears were itching when Charlotte talked to her like this. Charlotte shrugged and didn't say anything. In fact, Brad and Tang Yin's conversation in Pashto was also helpful for him to learn the language. The more they talked, the faster he learned. The AE capsule had given his left eye a magical ability. He had always thought that the AE capsule had only changed his left eye, but as he learned and mastered more and more skills, he had begun to face a new problem, and that was the AE capsule might have changed his brain, making him smarter than anyone could imagine. It seemed that his body had also changed. Before the ability of his left eye was awakened, his body didn't have the super coordination and keen reflexes it had now. It was just that it was very difficult to prove this. It wasn't like the ability of his left eye, which he could feel and use at any time. Just as Charlotte's mind wandered, Tang Yuyin brought the topic back to the White Hun tribe. Mr. Brad, you said that you were familiar with every inch of Afghanistan. You must know a lot about the White Hun tribe. Please tell me. Brad nodded. The White Hun are an ancient nomadic people who once invaded Persia and India and established the Hindu kingdom. They believe in Zoroastrianism. The tribe we're going to is also called the Flame Tribe. It has at least 1,000 years of history and is very mysterious. Tang Yuyin translated Brad's words to Charlotte in a low voice. At the same time, she didn't affect Brad's description. Brad continued. The tribe is located in the mountains, isolated from the world, and still maintains ancient traditions and beliefs. In that tribe, women rule everything. A woman will usually marry several men, and the men have no status. The warriors guarding the tribe are all female warriors. Tang Yin translated for Charlotte, and Charlotte couldn't help but say, the legendary women's kingdom is that tribe? It was described in Journey to the West. Tang Xuanzong went to Women's Kingdom. Tang Yuyin translated Charlotte's words to Brad. Brad laughed and said, I've heard of your Journey to the West. It is an amazing, mythical novel. I haven't read that book, so I don't know anything about Tang Xuanzong. If there was a monk from the Tang dynasty who went to Women's Kingdom, it was most likely there. This time, Tang Yin didn't even care about the translation. She was shocked. An inexplicable image appeared in Xia Lei's mind. Tang Song was riding on a white horse, surrounded by a group of seductive female demons. They danced around Tang Song, performing a sensual belly dance, and then touching his body. The question he wanted to understand was, what were peaceful and the elite experts of Huan Nation researching at that place? I don't want to talk about mythical stories. Brad's expression became serious. What I want to tell you is, don't underestimate the women of that tribe. Their fighting strength is very amazing. Every female warrior is not afraid of death. Once they see you as an intruder, it will be very difficult for you to escape that land alive. Tang Yuyin frowned. What weapons do they use? How many people are there? Maybe guns or maybe cold weapons like bows and knives, Brad said. As for how many people there are, I don't know. Tang Yuyin said, it's just some tribal female warriors. What is there to be afraid of? Brad smiled bitterly. Do you know why I'm so afraid of going to the White Han tribe? When the Soviet Union invaded, a battalion of Soviet soldiers went to the White Han tribe, but only one returned. That person was my brother. Not long after he escaped, he went crazy and died. Tang Yuyin translated Brad's words to Charlotte. Charlotte's heart jumped. Mr. Brad, did your brother tell you why the Soviet soldiers went to the White Han tribe? After Tang Yuyin translated, Brad shook his head. They forced my brother to lead the way at gunpoint. Do you think the Soviet soldiers told my brother any important secrets? Tang Yuyin translated Brad's words to Charlotte, then looked at him. Like Tang Yuyin, Charlotte's face was solemn. It was a mystery, but it was certain that something had attracted the Soviet soldiers. Perhaps it had attracted peaceful and China's experts. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.